Democrat Eric Swalwell reportedly caught on tape admitting to corruption, abusing power in Congress, targeting the Trump family for, well, I don't want to get too much into it, but for inappropriate reasons, and talking about cheating on his wife and going after teenagers. Yo, this is wild. Reporter Nick Sortor was, I don't want to go too much into it just yet because we want to have him break the story down, but published a video where he confronted Eric Swalwell and said, there's, I believe, what is it, an hour and a half? He said an hour and a half of audio recording in public of Swalwell gloating, laughing, and admitting to how he abuses power, wanted to abuse power, and how he was involved in, let me pause. Madison Cawthorn was right. If you know what that means, you know what that means. But we're really early in the show. We try to keep it family friendly. Madison Cawthorn warned about how in Congress, in D.C., there's a lot of adults that get together and take their clothes off, if you know what I mean. And Swalwell basically is admitting to this. So this is going to get pretty wild. We're going to get into the nitty gritty with Nick, who was there, witnessed it, recorded it, and hear about exactly what went down. What I can say is I've seen photos. I've seen recordings. I don't know what's on the recordings, but I know that he's got this stuff. And it looks like this is going to be a massive story exposing deep Democrat corruption. So, I mean, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Seriously. They're calling it a hacker. I don't know if it's a hacker, but at the Housing and Urban Development meeting, somebody blasted on all the TVs AI video of Trump licking Elon Musk, his feet. It's very weird. I got to admit, kind of funny, but we'll talk about that. And then the story from the other day, but I think it's very relevant now. CNN wrote a story saying that high-level officials at the CIA are concerned that the layoffs are going to result in people betraying the United States and selling American secrets, as if to imply that there are traitors working at the CIA, and they have been for some time, which is really weird for them to admit. So we'll get into all of that, plus Trump cheering for the Gulf of America. Before we do, my friends, we've got a great sponsor tonight, Tax Network USA. Make sure you guys go to tnusa.com/Tim. Thank you to Tax Network USA for sponsoring the show. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. And with April 15th fast approaching, it's more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up. And if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. The longer you do, the worse it gets. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you can do. April 15th marks another tax year that has passed you by. Getting ahead of this now is the smart move, but never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Why? Because not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning they know exactly which agents to deal with and which to avoid. With proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Wow. Talk with one of their strategists today. It's free. Stop the threatening letters, stop looking over your shoulder, and protect yourself from property seizure and bank levies. Don't let the IRS control your future. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Tim. April 15th is just around the corner. Act now before the IRS acts first. And I want to say this, a little personal message. I've got friends who are dealing with some of this stuff. I personally recommended Tax Network USA to them, told them they should reach out and get this stuff resolved. I'm saying that literally outside of the sponsory. These guys are great. Also, don't forget, go to castbrew.com. Ian sold all of his coffee. It's gone. I'm going to beg him to go to school with the money that he's earned from the sales. You know he needs it. But we do have Appalachian Nights still, our all-time bestseller, despite the fact that Ian's graphene dream is overtaken in the past month. Support Cast Brew Coffee. It is our coffee company. We sponsor ourselves. It's the best coffee. Everyone agrees. At least that's what I've been told. And as always, check out the Green Room show. Today was pretty wild, actually, and I think it's going to be over an hour long. We were largely just hanging out backstage talking about TV shows, and then Nick comes in, and you guys got to watch this Green Room episode when it comes up tonight, okay? This is Rumble Premium. Go to rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Sign up for Premium. Watch it when it goes live, because you're going to see the raw reaction to all of us learning about the story that Nick is going to tell us right now, which is absolutely insane. But the behind the scenes is really interesting as he's basically breaking this down. And it's fun behind-the-scenes stuff. We got a bunch of behind-the-scenes content. Check that out. Don't forget to smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know, and join our Discord server, over 20,000 individuals at timcast.com to hang out with all these people, build shows, build podcasts, build culture. Shout out to Roman Nation and Quiet Part Podcast, who launched from our Discord server. As I already mentioned, joining us tonight to talk about this and let's just say this story is Nick Sortor. What is up?
Appreciate you having me, Tim. It's good timing to be here, be able to talk about this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't posted about yet that we talked about a little bit earlier when I first came in. And because this is a juicy story, we're talking about an hour and a half of sitting there with Eric Swalwell, a drunk Eric Swalwell, listening to him spill everything to people that he doesn't even know, but they keep buying him drinks and everything. I mean, it was just, there's so much to digest. That tweet that I made was 6 paragraphs long, and I still couldn't fit everything into it.
And we're going to get into it, but just real quick, he was actually talking about using his powers in Congress corruptly.
Corruptly, absolutely, to target the Trump family.
Bragging about it and laughing while drinking.
Right, absolutely, with people that he had just met yesterday.
And then cheating on his wife.
Openly. It seemed like the entire restaurant could hear it. It was crazy.
All right. This is going to be wild. But we also have another guest, the man who gave birth to the Gulf of America himself, Kevin Posobiec.
Indeed. Thanks for having me on, Tim. Kevin Posobiec, co-host of Human Events Daily. Great to be here.
So people may not know this, but you had that post, like, what is it, like a year ago, where you were, was it like you were on a jet ski or something, and you were like, Gulf of America, baby.
That's right. Yeah, it was April 20th. Go figure. But yeah, me and my buddy Johnny. Yep, from Tampa. We were out there just ripping along.
Did somebody see it and say, "Hey, Trump, check this out"?
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying?
somebody retweeted it. Who also comes on this show quite often. But somebody retweeted it, and then on down the line.
So I'm hearing that Trump is going to declare May 15th now. I think that was the date. I think that's going to be Sir Kevin Posobiec Day, the
February 9th.
Discoverer of the Gulf of America.
That's right. I want a statue. I'm up there with Christopher Columbus now.
Well, thanks for hanging out. We got Libby hanging out as well.
I'm Libby Emmons. I'm hanging out. I'm with the Post Millennial and Human Events. Really glad to be here with you guys tonight. Phil's here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's go.
Before we get into this, I'm going to take this time to give a message to the people who work here. Can someone get the AC turned on? Because it's like it got really hot out and the heat was on, and it's ridiculously hot in this building. So I don't know. Maybe
comfy. I gotta say.
Yeah, no way. We're gonna drop it down to 30 degrees in here. Yeah, Phil, would you message somebody? Sure. I don't know how to work the AC in this building. Who am I? Let's jump into this story, dude. This tweet is nuts. Okay, so at 1:00. Nick Sortor, who's sitting right here, tweets, exclusive, Eric Swalwell panics when I ask about his Chinese spy girlfriend. It's Feng Feng, in fact. It's Feng. That's how you pronounce it.
Oh, no, not Fang Fang.
It's not Fang. It's
not
Feng
Bang
Feng.
Bang Fang Fang. Okay.
No. And whether that's a bigger national security threat than Elon Musk. I sat next to a drunk Swalwell at dinner for 90 minutes. He was immediately compromised by a group of lobbyists he just met, spilling intimate details about his job and asking for help cheating on his wife. Massive national security threat. This guy should have his clearances revoked. Swalwell spent his dinner bragging about orgies on Capitol Hill, telling them he's bored of his wife and only wants to tens. Did I say teens in the intro? I meant tens. Worse, he spoke about abusing his power on the House Intel Committee, which he's since been booted off of, saying he pushed to subpoena Ivanka Trump because she's hot AF. This guy must be removed from the Homeland Security Committee. He cannot keep his freaking mouth shut. After I began questioning him, Swalwell jumped back into the group of lobbyists to hide from me, but I pressed on. Dude looked absolutely terrified, 100% guilty. He knows he's been caught. So here's actually some of the video. Now, this video, it's got 30,000 retweets already, 10 million views. Well, this is just a video of Swalwell being questioned. So as I understand it, as we are getting ready for the show, you've got recordings and you've got photos of him in this public event. And my understanding is you were sitting in a public place, minding your own business when he sits down, again, in a public place, and then just starts bloviating.
Yeah, correct. I mean, yeah, I just took my girlfriend to dinner. That's it. I was going there. I was tired. I just wanted to go somewhere close to where I was staying at the time. Let's just say I'm going to move from where that location was because, after you do something like this, they're like watching to see where I'm going and stuff. And it was just, it was a little bit weird. I really don't trust these people. Let's just say that much. But, we're sitting there. I'm eating. I just ordered my food and there's tables open. I mean, we're talking 10 o'clock at night. So it wasn't exactly crowded at this restaurant. And for whatever reason, with all the tables open in the restaurant, he sits right next to me. I mean, directly I could hear every word coming out of his mouth. And so could, my my phone. I was talking to my girlfriend. We were talking about the German elections, and we were going to do a video. And so I sit here, and all I did, I have my phone recording, and it's directly in front of me. But my phone was able to hear literally everything that was going on in the direct vicinity. And the guy was screaming. It's like everybody in the restaurant was able to hear what he was saying, and he didn't care. I don't know. I don't know if he was drunk before he got there, or they got him drunk once he got there. I mean, he only had. He had a few wines, but he started just going off, just spouting off immediately as he got there.
Let's start this. I'm aware of who Swalwell is. I know a lot of people are. He's the guy who famously, I believe, he broke wind while on MSNBC. Was that the story?
That's the story.
Yeah, it was loud. It almost sounds fake, but
we will pull this up. And then MSNBC, I believe, claimed that it was a mug moving across a desk, which is just literally not true. And he got roasted by everybody. But anyway, I digress. This was 5 years ago. He was on the House Intelligence Committee. Mm-hmm. And can you give us a little background of what this guy's involved with and why this is so important? This story is so big.
Yeah, and so years ago, one of the most the things that Eric Swalwell was most famous for was dating a chick named Fang Fang or Fong Fong, whatever you want to say, who ended up being a Chinese spy. He dated her for a long time, and it was finally outed. It got the only good thing that Kevin McCarthy ever did was kick Swalwell off of the Intelligence Committee. But the problem is now he's still on the Homeland Security Committee, which is a problem, which means he's got a clearance. That means he's getting confidential information. And all it takes for him to start spouting off to random people that he just met, he didn't know these lobbyists' names. They had to tell him their names when he first met them, and it took maybe 10 minutes for him to start divulging information about him trying to cheat on his wife.
So just real quick for some irreverent context, this is Eric Swalwell. Can we pull this one up?
Taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help them cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from Republicans...
You heard him pause.
He moved back. He sat back and paused.
This was a big story because he was on the Intelligence Committee talking about Trump, the Ukraine scandal, and Trump's impeachment. This was, I'm pulling this up because, look, with all due respect, this was one of his most notable moments. I'm not, but it's true. It is funny, and people make fun of him for it, but most people don't know who this guy is or why it matters. Here he is on MSNBC accusing Donald Trump of cheating or trying to by soliciting support from the Ukrainians that resulted in his impeachment.
Taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help them cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from Republicans, taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help them cheat an election.
Okay, that guy farted on TV.
I mean, look, he paused.
He paused and sat back.
So give us some examples of what was he saying he wanted to do, had done? He's admitting to abusing power.
Admitting to abusing power, but one of the first things he said to this guy, this lobbyist that he had just met, was talking about how he was bored of his wife and how he wants somebody more ambitious, and he only wants to fuck. Sorry, that's what he said. He only wants to F10s. And I don't know what you think. Is Fang Fang a 10? I mean, would you go that far with that?
I've never actually. I don't know what she looks like. But I got to correct you. It's Fong Fong.
Fong Fong.
I believe it's
she did
Mandarin.
die in a plane crash a couple years ago.
Oh, no.
Did she really?
What?
Yeah.
What?
No.
Yeah.
You made that up.
No. No. She died in 2022 on a China Eastern plane crash. And it said I'm looking at Twitter from November 9th, 2023, where it says a year ago that she died in a plane crash. And then it emerged that Fang Fang, the chief financial officer of Dinglong Culture, died in the plane crash.
Wow.
In March 2022, she died in that plane crash.
But my entire point behind talking about this and why I think that it's such a big deal is because if he is willing to say these things to people he just met, didn't even know their names, what did he tell to somebody like Fang Fang?
Speaker Johnson needs to do something.
Right.
Speaker of the House needs to.
Okay, but let's get some of the meat here.
Sure.
Right? Because I understand, we're all concerned about him. He's a Democrat. He's doing bad things. He talked about orgies on Capitol Hill.
Right.
What did he say?
Bragging about orgies on Capitol Hill. Talks about. I mean, it's almost like he was talking about it like it's an open secret, and that
it is.
Everybody. Yeah, we're right. I mean,
Madison Cawthorn warned everybody, and they called him a liar.
Right, and what did they do to him? They found a way to get rid of him. Yeah. But one of the biggest concerns that I had, listening to that conversation, and was him talking about his time on the Intelligence Committee and how he wanted to literally subpoena Ivanka Trump because she was, hot as
AF.
Hot AF. But
AF.
actually saying the words and then going on and on about it. This wasn't just a passing comment. He was talking about how, we originally we're going to subpoena Jared Kushner, but I pushed to try to get Ivanka Trump in there too because man, she's just hot as.
Wow.
And it's all on recording. I'm like, my God. I looked at my girlfriend and she looks back at me and I'm like, we couldn't believe what we were hearing, that this guy is saying this loudly in a public restaurant.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is a Monday night, too.
Right.
Not even like a Friday
people
or Saturday.
5 tables away could have heard this.
So this is yesterday.
This is last night.
Last night, you're just sitting there having dinner, and dude sits down. Again, I'm stressing the public because we're talking about the risks to national security.
Mm-hmm.
A guy with security clearance in the Intelligence Committee in a public place, bloviating as loudly as possible to the point where people all around him can hear it, and you're able to pick it up on a recording.
Right.
He's just spilling the beans and everything.
Not with a device, just with my phone just sitting in front of me. I mean, I didn't need to. I didn't need to bug the table or anything. It just, the phone right in front of me was enough to capture I probably could have had the phone a few tables away and still gotten the conversation. It was absolutely crazy. But I've already had members of Congress reach out to me about this. He's not going to have a good week after. Let's just say that. It's that.
Right off the bat, I mean, this is what you've told us so far. And again, you're going to go through the recordings and we'll see what happens. But the stuff we know already, I'll put it like this. I'm sure I speak for a lot of people who are like, I want to see the recording. Like I want to know that it actually happened. What was said was said. That being said, like you obviously have photos and recordings. You do. And you obviously were there. You have videos of the guy. So
if you watch the video of me confronting him, I actually mentioned some of the stuff that I'm mentioning right now. I asked him for comment. Like, you want to comment on the fact that you don't want to bang your wife anymore because you want to bang tens in D.C.? I asked him that as he was walking.
Does he not know he's famous? It's so weird.
Yeah, and then he looks at me like a deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, how this guy's been sitting next to me for an hour and a half.
This warrants expulsion.
Yeah, it absolutely warrants expulsion. Absolutely.
But they're never going to do it. I mean,
He should at least, like Phil was saying, be pulled off those committees.
Yeah.
well, he's off intel already, right?
I'm not sure, but at the end of the day, this kind of behavior should mean that he can't be on any committees. He should lose all appointments.
Right.
He can obviously, if his constituents want him to stay, then he can stay. But there is no reason for the speaker or any committee to allow him to stay, considering this type of behavior.
Right.
He's on judiciary.
Yeah, he's on Homeland Security.
He's on Homeland Security.
Yeah, which is really dangerous.
Cybersecurity
He
and
should
infrastructure.
clearly lose his clearance.
protection.
After Fong? Like, why is he on Homeland Security? I mean, it seems like a big oversight.
So that Fong thing was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And he got into things after the fact.
Yeah. So
who's right? 2.5 years ago, this whole thing came out, and so you have Speaker Johnson. He's the one that has the power to decide who's on what committee.
Who issues his clearance? Like who could revoke his clearance? Obviously, the president could revoke his clearance, but who else? Like what other authorities would be involved in repealing or revoking his clearance? Because he shouldn't have a clearance.
No, he cannot be trusted. I don't care, Republican or
absolutely.
Democrat. People are like, oh, well, you're attacking this guy because he's a Democrat or whatever. No,
So?
he spent all day yesterday attacking Dan Crenshaw for saying that he wanted to murder Tucker Carlson.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
What is going on?
Right, it's like, what is up with these people?
Congressmen are just losing it.
You've got Rep
entirely.
Garcia, who we're going to censure this week. For saying that he wants people to bring actual weapons against
Yes.
Elon Musk.
I really love the idea.
That was crazy.
These people are increasingly brazen. You have these Democrats out there protesting, saying that this is war now and we need to fight in the streets.
Jasmine Crockett, she's out of control.
Particularly in a climate where we had 2 attempts on the sitting president's life. There are constant.
That makes a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. There was an attack at there was a Tesla dealership that was shot out. Now that's symbolic,
Oregon?
yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't expect to hit Musk. But the point is, it was a violent attack on something that was representative of Elon Musk. There was I don't know what the deal surrounding the bomb in
Las Vegas thing?
Vegas of the Tesla truck, but in this environment, in this climate, having people in positions of authority, and again, being in Congress does make a difference as to what you say. We do have the freedom of speech, but if you're in a position of authority, you have to be careful what you're saying when it comes to things like violent rhetoric. If it's a Republican that says these kind of things, people on the left are doing all they can to have as damaging repercussions happen as possible. And I think that it should be the same standard should be held to the Democrats.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you go to these protests now, because I'm in D.C. a lot, and I go to these protests on Capitol Hill. You see every single time at this point, you see somebody, there's this one woman that goes every time wearing a Luigi hat with an anti-Elon Musk sign. You know exactly what she's calling for. She's openly doing it, and nothing is done about it because, well,
there's no imminent threat created.
I know, and so, but these people are being emboldened. They're going. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, where luckily we have Eagle Ed Martin, the new U.S. attorney, Trump's new U.S. attorney up there, that is investigating this chick on TikTok that's coming out and literally saying, "Somebody please assassinate Elon Musk," and saying that she hasn't filed taxes for 8 years, which is a really stupid admission. Maybe she should call your sponsor. I don't know, but
there's another woman that's going viral right now where she was saying something to the effect of, we all know what needs to be done.
Right.
And then, there's tons of these videos where they try to use innuendo to call for violence. Mm-hmm. But it does look like we got Dan and Cash, and they're going to be taking these things more seriously. This administration, of course, is going to take things much more seriously. And I think you mentioned, in response that went on TikTok calling for harm to Elon Musk, a U.S. attorney directly responded saying, we're going to get...
Yeah, we'll be in contact. Talk soon.
Right. Yeah.
And she's like, ha, 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 don't make this go viral. Oh, no, I'm going to get in trouble. But they want to go viral.
Right.
I mean, what people need to understand is that while certainly there are a lot of extremists and they're crazy, when you... Remember these videos where people would dress up like killer clowns and anything to go viral? Remember the knockout game?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Anything to go viral. Mm-hmm. People want to film these videos. They do videos where they pull up to drive-thrus and then throw food at the workers and do horrible things. Or how about the milk videos? You have the videos where they go to Walmart and they jump up on the counter and then they slam the milk on the ground and then dump it all over themselves while screaming because it gets views. These people on TikTok and other platforms calling for violence are doing it for many of them, not all of them, but many of them for that reason, because they know it'll get them attention.
Right.
But it also should get them legal attention. It should get them law enforcement attention.
And I believe that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And very happy to see it.
How come TikTok leaves
People
that
should know
stuff up?
That's what's going to happen.
Oh, TikTok banned us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They
literally
banned
just
you,
yesterday night.
Yeah, and I can't post so I was down at the border investigating, down there and showing how easy it was to go back and forth between Mexico and the United States. You just walk around the fences during the Biden administration, and they suspended me for that.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, so, why can you post things calling for the assassination of a government official, but I can't show the border wall?
I'm going to assume that TikTok did delete that video she posted. Because if it's still up, that'd be surprising.
She removed her own account. So.
Well, there you go. So, but I will say this. I think it's highly likely that first it's been reported Kellyanne Conway is lobbying for TikTok, and that's probably why Trump supports it. Trump is just sitting there being like, wow, I do well on TikTok. He doesn't. And it's funny because with all due respect to Riley Gaines, when everyone started jumping out and defending TikTok, she did as well. And she said something like, I've got 600,000 followers on TikTok. There's an audience there for this. And I'm like, Dylan Mulvaney has 13 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to entertain a website or a mobile app, whatever, that is going to make sure 13 million people they're going to keep being fed gender ideology and wokeness, and then 600,000 are allowed to get anti-woke stuff. Okay, you're losing. You are losing. And this is an app we have there's no rules. We don't know what we're allowed to do. So we recently launched a new account kind of to prove the point, because Trump said no. It's guys said okay. We talked to the social team, said launch a TikTok, and then we got a warning within a week, and we got banned again. And what do we say on this show that in any way ever is beyond the boundaries of what is acceptable in public discourse? You've got people on TikTok who post way crazier things. You've got people sharing the Osama bin Laden letter. You've got people pushing innuendo, hint to Luigi Mangione. And everyone knows what it means. TikTok has no problem with it. We never go anywhere near that stuff. They take us down. The first video that got flagged was a clip from IRL, which I wasn't even on. It was Sam Tripoli. And he was talking about energy vampires. And they said, that breaks the rules, and gave us a warning. Do it again, you're banned. We're like, what? It was a joke. It was a joke about
That's crazy.
psychic energy vampires.
Yeah.
It's just a joke about how people drain your energy sometimes.
That happens.
And
That's their concern?
And then just the other day, I don't know why, but they said we are permanently banned once again from TikTok.
They have an algorithm that feeds based on location, and they were feeding this teenager in Long Island train suicide videos.
Whoa.
And then he stepped in front of a train.
Wow.
And his parents are trying to sue TikTok, but like this is what happened. This is what they saw fit to
and
feed
Trump's
this
and
boy.
Trump's defending it.
Yeah, I think that Congress was
Wrong.
right to ban TikTok. I think it's I understand all your slippery slope arguments, but like get it off our phones, get it out of our kids' hands, get it out of our brains. We don't need it.
Right, and one of the arguments that people say is, oh well, just if they give you a violation and take down your video, just appeal it and it'll go back up. Okay, well you've already killed they'll wait 24 hours, 48 hours, and maybe they'll put it back up, but that distribution is already killed, so it's not going to go anywhere anymore. That they will silence you and make sure that whatever you post is out of the news cycle by the time that they even let you put it up there. I mean,
Trump's got financial interests around him that are defending TikTok for no legitimate reason, as far as I can tell. So Charlie Kirk and Trump have done a hard 180 on TikTok with no explanation. I like Charlie. He does amazing work, some of the best work in politics. He, along with Scott Pressler, did tremendous to help Trump win. I think the Trump administration's been fantastic. That being said, I still have never been given a legitimate reason from Charlie or Trump or anyone defending TikTok as to why they did a 180. Nothing's changed. The data fears are still there. The algorithm fears are still there. Just all of a sudden they're like, no, we're good with it now. I'm not.
Well, you would think that rather than face the total shutdown of your app, if there was actually, if we're talking about a legitimate business here, why not go through and sell it for $100 billion to a U.S. company? Why? Well, at the end of the day, what are they going to do? They're going to shut it down? They're going to say, oh, well, we don't want it anymore?
They shut it down for one day, wasn't it? One day?
Yeah, one day.
And now
It was like
who owns
hardly
it?
shut
And that was
down
fake.
at all. Yeah.
That was not shut down. That was TikTok. TikTok chose to disable their servers for users, and then chose to turn them back on, because the bill just removed it from the Play stores and from U.S. servers, which didn't affect them. They pulled a stunt to be like, we're taken down. Sorry, hey, Trump did this, and maybe for that reason, Trump was like, I'll take the boost among young people or something.
Well, it's still not available on Apple and Google.
It is.
They just put it back.
They just put
Well,
it
it's been back for like a week or two.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's jump to
The
this.
last time I checked.
I'm sure that we'll get into more about what's going on with the Democrats. We've got another story in the deep state, but for now, let's get into this other very big story from the New York Post. Oh boy, you guys aren't going to want to look at the screen. Feds ID hacker who played AI video of Trump kissing Musk's feet and warned that legal ramifications are being explored. How many of you think we should scroll down and everyone can see Trump sucking on Elon's toes?
I
No?
mean,
We're
no.
going to say no. I'm going to enable the blur function.
I didn't, this is a cool feature. I didn't even know this existed.
So it's an extension you can download. And let's just adjust the blur amount to, let's put it at 5%. No, 5's a little too much.
Yeah.
Let's go to 6. So you can kind of see that there's Elon Musk sitting there. It says, long live the real king. And that wasn't enough blur. It wasn't enough. Oh no. All right, there we go.
Oh my goodness, that doesn't.
It's AI.
Doesn't
It's
look good
AI.
either.
The feds have ID'd the cyberpunk who broadcast an AI-powered video of Trump kissing. They say kissing, but I'm sorry, that's not kissing. That's
No, it was a little more involved.
toes are in the mouth.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And the kissing.
Officials at the Department of Housing and Urban Development said the individual has been identified, although they didn't name them or reveal how the hacker managed to infiltrate the government television system in the cafeteria at the agency's headquarters. So I'm going to go ahead and assume the person worked there. It's usually that simple. I don't think anyone broke into the building and then stuck a USB in a computer. I think they worked there and knew how to do it.
Well, I mean, this is, you got to think about it. If it was a hacker of some sort, that is a high-level felony to hack into government computer systems. So, if they're saying they've identified the hacker, but there haven't been any charges,
Yeah, they just kicked him out.
They just kicked him out. So
I think it was an employee.
It had to be an employee at that point. I don't think this DOJ is going to be like, we're just, we'll cut him loose. Don't do it again. Slap on the wrist.
Okay,
Like, no.
but y'all got to admit it is funny.
It's definitely funny.
I'm not laughing.
It's
It's just
gross.
inappropriate.
Where was it posted?
On all the TVs at Housing and Urban Development. They all just turned on showing Trump with Elon's toes in his mouth.
Oh, no.
No, no.
But I mean, it really shows you how deranged these people are. I mean, how much you want to bet this person didn't respond to that email?
Look,
I mean, they
yeah, okay, fair enough. Look, feet people are deranged in like right off the bat. Just if you're into feet, you're kind of weird, right?
I think you're weird generating that, to be honest. If you're
Yes.
going to AI
No.
generate that, it's pretty weird.
Phil, I'd like to agree with you, but the standard of what qualifies as weird these days has gone so far away from feet that you would beg for feet to be the weirdest thing about
You
a
can
person.
thank
I hate
TikTok
to
for that
admit
one.
that you're right, but you're right.
You go to a liberal bar and you're like, please let feet be the only.
I mean, listen, yeah, I don't know. I think we're not. I don't know if we talked about it yesterday. Or we're going to talk about it tonight. The CIA and their their sex.
we talked about that
my
last night.
That was last night. Yeah, it's just so freaky.
The NSA, CIA secret chat rooms they were having.
Those
where
were
they're-
so creepy.
Yeah, well,
And the
as
things
I stated, you don't even want to know. Like I cannot on this show. When I say we're family friendly, I'm not saying it's a kids show where we're going to be like ABC 1, 2, 3. I'm saying that we try to use innuendo on issues that get a little too heavy. We try to refrain from swearing to the best of our abilities, but this is a news, culture, and commentary show, which sometimes maybe your kids shouldn't be listening to. That being said, these things in this chat, a man should not say before a woman. I mean, these are horrifying things they were talking about doing to their bodies. Some border on self-harm. So
Well, they
I
think
don't
it's
think
healthcare.
Well,
Some of it they think it's healthcare.
Are these the type
Some
of-
it.
Yes, but the stuff they were talking
all
about
of
was
it.
not healthcare at
Yeah.
all.
Well, they
Not at all.
they were talking about the relative benefits of sex changes and some of it.
Yes, but some of it was about the things they do that makes them feel good, and
Right,
this was not
yes,
healthcare. It was
that's
damaging
correct,
to the
yeah.
body, and it's weird.
It's
And
all just disgusting.
and the problem is you normalize these things, and it's damaging to the body. Like you are hurting yourself and causing very serious health issues. It's self-harm, not okay. But anyway,
How did these people get so deeply embedded in the
Because of
intelligence
DEI.
community?
Yeah. Because
That's
DEI.
terrifying.
well, yes,
How many of
but
these people are there that we
good men-
don't know
good
about?
men did nothing.
Right.
That's why.
Good men did nothing.
They were
men did nothing.
too afraid.
I mean,
Didn't want to say anything. Didn't want to speak out.
We had
But
what?
not at first. I mean, I would say largely yes, but it's not about fear. I think it started with you have a Christian moral ethic dominant government and culture, and then along comes some somewhat deviant of an individual, and they say, I'm just going to mind my own business because I want to go home to my kids and I don't care to deal with this. Weird stuff. Another person comes in and they say the same thing. Look, I just don't want to deal with it. It's nothing. It's not a big deal. And then 10, 20 years later, half the office has these kind of these behaviors. And now they're the ones setting the rules. And now you're going, if I say anything, I'll get fired.
Right.
It's when good men do nothing. How about when someone comes in advocating for self-harm for the purpose of self-gratification, which is paradoxical, you say, don't bring that around here. You will be fired. But they didn't.
Yeah, well, apparently,
maybe they will.
apparently you're not allowed to fire anybody. If that's, what all these judges are saying, you're not allowed to fire people. And you had finally today they were given, or yesterday, given the green light to go ahead and start firing these USAID people.
Yep.
So that workforce is going to be cut. I don't know if you've been by. Anybody here been? You were in D.C. You go by that building now. It is a ghost town.
Oh, yeah,
with
they've been all taped up.
Yeah,
It's all
they
taped
have to
over with
keep
duct tape.
taping it over because
Yeah.
the activists keep going back. No, we're gonna reopen it. And they rip the
Can I-
tape off. And they
I'm sorry. I live in the real world where we got little restaurants down the street, little small family grills and diners. Ain't not a single person in that building cares about what USAID is.
No.
Because look, a lot of people on the right are going to be like, people like that we're getting rid of this stuff. I'm like, oh, technically. The truth is, they have no idea what you're talking about. Who are these people cheering for USAID?
It is kind of bizarre, the people cheering for USAID. And it's also true in terms of these government employees and their weird chat rooms and whatever else they're doing. Like, what's one of the biggest reasons someone takes a government job? It's because of stability. It's because of good benefits. So, I mean, if you take a government job, you can expect to have it for, a decade at least. You can expect to not get fired. So, I mean, already you have
Well, that's
this.
the temptation, though. If you expect to not get fired, you could also expect to not, get in trouble for anything.
Right.
More temptation to get away with things, like weird chat rooms. I
Right.
think there should be an ethics investigation on these people. I was in the confirmation hearing for Kash Patel for 5 hours, and they were grilling him on both sides for the entire day. But, thank God he's in now as a new FBI director. And I mean, we kicked out George Santos from Congress. People like Swalwell, get him out. An ethics investigation put in on all them. We're talking about revoking the clearance. We got to do at least something here to prevent this from continuing.
Right. I mean, you can see it's very, very clear, especially with the Swalwell situation, why people don't trust Congress. They don't trust. What are they at? Are they at a 9% approval rating at this point? It's because you have a bunch of sleaze bags in there.
There's nothing you said that's
he's probably in one of the chat rooms too. I mean,
you think Swalwell's in there?
Right.
He's a weird dude.
Nothing that you said is wrong, but
no, it is. Sorry, it's 29%. It is. I mean,
really?
Fine, but the
29%. It must be Congress.
Look.
It's Congress and the staff. Yeah.
But the point is that it's not just that Congress is full of scumbags. That's something that's been kind of apparent to everybody for a long, long time. The reason that there is such record distrust of government is because of COVID. It's because of the way that the government treated the American people during COVID.
Well, that's when it really got exposed. That's when people
that's
really got red pills.
Yes.
Because it became so obvious.
But I agree. And I do kind of feel like I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I feel like it's beating a dead horse at this point. It's, we're several years on now. Trump won a popular mandate. People are very pissed off about all that. Trump is going to go in, and we hope, despite these blanket pardons, Cash and Dan start digging up more information and exposing that we're on the next level of these things. What I'm really curious about right now is, how are there people marching around D.C. cheering for an agency no one's ever heard of? There was a segment on Fox where they were pointing out these Democrats are doing these protests, and there's a bunch of photos popping up where a couple Democrat senators and members of Congress are at a podium with no activists, no protesters. And the argument being made on X, and so I believe Fox made this argument, is when you cut USAID funding, which was not just USAID, but some of these other government programs funneling to nonprofits, the paid organization of protests doesn't happen anymore. So now when we see Democrats protest, there's no people.
Right.
Yeah,
there's two things to
people
consider.
aren't getting paid out for it.
Well, people don't, 99% of the time, people are not paid to protest. And this is a mistake a lot of conservatives consistently have made over the past 15, 20 years, is they say that George Soros is funding paid protesters. No. George Soros, Open Society Foundation, provides grants to various nonprofits of certain political persuasions. Those nonprofits will dispatch 2 organizers, maybe more, into a college area to flyer and pamphlet to generate real protesters. Now, in actuality, these kids have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
But they just say, show up. Famously, at Occupy Wall Street, there was a group of organizers that told everyone Radiohead was going to be playing a free show at Occupy Wall Street, which was an obvious lie. 2,000 or 3,000 people showed up. Those people weren't paid to be there. They were tricked into being there.
Right.
So what we end up seeing now, with Democrats coming out and protesting Republicans and saying all this stuff, and there's no people behind them. 2 things happened. The signs that they have, you'll notice there are these rallies, and everybody seems to have the same sign. They're printed from a print shop. Yeah, that's paid for by nonprofits and by activist organizations. But when you cut funding to these DC-based activist organizations, you're not going to get those signs, and the organizers will get laid off, and they won't be able to go and flyer to create these protests.
So that's what community organizers are?
That's right.
They're people that show up at college campuses to flyer and generate aggravated protesters. Yeah, what about the buses?
So it's got to be a large expense.
So absolutely. And there are astroturfed events. They exist. They're just very rare because it's very expensive and it's easy to expose and it's bad PR. So there are organizations that will say, we'll pay you $20 to come to a park event and stand in the crowd. And they'll give you some excuse as to what it is. We're filming a music video, or, it's a rally and we're filming a promo spot. So we need crowd fillers, and people will go and be like, hey, $20 for free. And I get free food and I, ride on a bus. The bus thing, however, in its all sincerity is same thing. These organizers will say, if you come to the protest, meet us at this place, and we've got buses to drive in. Mm-hmm. They pay, I think it's a couple $1,000s per bus for the day. And then you'll get 5-6 buses, pull up, unload, and people all come out with pre-made signs. Those people aren't paid to be there, typically. They're like, I'm part of the cause. And they have no idea what they're protesting. They don't know why they're there. And if you ask them any intense question about the politics, they'd be like, oh.
Well, I mean, look, one of the things that you'll notice is, obviously, you go to these things, it's somebody that's covered several of these protests over the past few weeks, it's the same people almost every time. that you go to. You'll recognize faces. You'll start, it's like the chick in the Luigi hat. She's at every single one of them. And then they have that Elon Musk is a Nazi signs. And I actually confronted one of them the other day saying, what do you mean? What does that mean that Elon Musk is a Nazi? They can't answer the question. They called the police to tell the police to come get me away.
It's a signal to other cult members that this is the bad man, and I'm with you.
And that's the thing. It's like you don't necessarily have to pay these people to come out because it gives them this feeling of, oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing something for the world. I'm part of something. Because other than that, they're useless. They're not particularly intelligent people, obviously, and they're trying to fit in somewhere. That's why you have the all the weird trans stuff now. It's like, oh, I can fit into this group now. That's the entire point of a lot of these people showing up. They feel like they're part of something, and they have value at some point.
Yeah. So if you're a bored college kid and you hear that there's going to be a big protest, you're like, I ain't got nothing else to do. But now here's the best part. We're starting to see all these photos pop up where Democrats are standing behind podiums. They ain't got no protesters anymore.
Right.
And people are saying, that's weird. Why is that?
Right. All the funding's going.
But there is one more thing. Before these layoffs happened, right? And before these people were all put on leave, you had in the middle of the business day, you had federal employees out there protesting in the middle, and that just proves everybody's point. Everybody's point. You can't. And then I think it was yesterday I saw on CNN some chick. I watch CNN because it's comedy at this point to watch these people. And she spends 10 minutes on CNN, a federal employee in the middle of the business day, whining about how much time it was going to take her to respond to this email and think about everything she had to do last week. And I'm like, in the time you spent whining on CNN in the middle of the business day, you could have responded to that email 5 times. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is pretty wild.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was wondering about too, is people kept going on news shows to complain about having to respond to an email. And I'm like, if my boss came to me and said, tell me 5 things you did last week, I'd be like, I could give you 100, like in 5 minutes.
I can tell you 5 things I did in the last hour.
Right.
Here's
it's
the
a
best
huge amount of stuff.
Every single time Ian is on this show, when the guests walk in, Ian goes, so what are you working on? Imagine we bring a Democrat in, they're going to go, oh!
Next time that happens, I'm going to protest here. I'll be like, no, this is not fair.
I think a lot of these
asked
people
everybody, and I go, Ian, save it for the show. Like, we want them to explain the stuff they're working on, like, live. And he goes, oh, okay. But it is not strange. Like, if I went to any office, like if my friend said, hey, you want to come stop by my office and see what's going on? Sure. And I go to the office, and he works in marketing, and there's like, this is my team, this so-and-so, and I'll be like, cool. So what do you guys work on? Mm-hmm. Could you imagine? Oh, I can't. I don't have time to answer that. Are you joking? What? You're sitting at your computer.
I think a lot of these people felt really insulted too. I think that they didn't like being called out. They didn't like being told to disrupt the chain of command. I think that their pride was insulted in a lot of cases because
absolutely.
Sure, it's stupid, but I think that
I think the truth is they just don't do anything.
How much pride can you have by being a sit-at-home mouse wiggler? For the federal government, every 2 hours or so, just wiggle the mouse, you'll be fine.
Otherwise, it'll notify.
Right.
LoJack. I think Elon's play here. Look, man. It's funny. These liberals and leftists. I love reading their subreddits. I love watching their shows. It is crazy how low IQ they are. I don't understand. I think it's unfair to say low IQ because maybe they have great spatial reasoning, but they can't comprehend the basic social function. When you play a game of chess, I'm sitting there looking at the board and I say, okay, I'm going to move my knight here. When I do, my opponent has 7 options to try and counter me that I'm expecting, and I base my problem. If he moves here, I'll make move A. If he moves here, I'll make move B. If he moves here, I'll make move C. That's called multi-layered thinking, and that's called planning ahead. Democrats can't understand that. So when Elon Musk says answer the email, and then Kash Patel and Tulsi say to their departments don't, they go, oh, Elon got burned, his plan didn't work, and I'm like, Elon moved a piece, waited to see the response. He will then move the piece again. The plan isn't over. He's not given up. And I think what these people don't realize, because they lack the cognitive capabilities, is that this email test does a bunch of things. It tests whether emails exist. If you don't answer, maybe there's no email. The first thing that's going to happen is he's going to put out an email and he's going to say, respond. People don't respond. They're told by Trump, Tulsi, and Kash, you don't have to. Just ignore it. Red flag to all those accounts. Not to fire them, but it's a red flag. Why? Anybody who is deeply passionate and really cared about their job is going to be like, oh boy, like, yo, Elon, hey man, I'm working on this project, man. I need help. I've been trying to get my boss to look at this thing we're doing, and he won't listen. Lazy people are going to be like, okay, whatever. Anybody doesn't respond gets a red flag. It doesn't mean you fire them, but now the magnifying glass is on them. Let it be. And the people who deeply care are going to respond being like, finally, please, I've been working so hard on this project.
Or even the people who feel like they don't want to tell you what they're doing because it's classified or whatever would reply with like, I'm working on a whole bunch of things. I can tell you very vaguely. I'm CCing my manager who can tell you more in depth if that's what's needed.
shows
just
you
the people
actually
that
care.
But it's just an email. It shouldn't be that hard.
No, and the people that Tim is pointing the finger at or talking about. Why would they assume that Musk would be hostile to the people that their boss, that he is working in conjunction with in the administration? Why would they assume that it's a fight? Like, it's like,
maybe
they
assume that
just snapped
everything's a
Elon
fight.
down. It's like, no, Elon. If you told Elon Musk, hey, the people that have security clearances probably shouldn't send emails to you in unsecured fashion talking about the projects they're working on, Musk would say, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, it's
he even
ridiculous
said that.
to think that it
But,
would be
like,
antagonistic.
Kevin, could you, you do contracting and stuff. Could you imagine one of your clients or something being like, hey, I was out of town. What were you working on last week? And just being like, no, I'm not going to tell you.
Absolutely not.
I'm going to go on
I
CNN
would
and
go
call him
through-
a threat
I
to
would go-
democracy.
Yeah, I would go through every day of
Right.
what I did. I was like, I sanded the cabinets this day. I put the paint on this day. And honestly, I was just thinking, why wouldn't you want a response from somebody like Elon Musk to literally help you be more efficient in your projects?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
give
He mentioned at one point that
Potentially
you
give
might get a
free
promotion.
advice.
You might get a promotion.
Or a
even.
promotion, right? Yeah, if you answer.
They're not going to be adversarial. It's these people that are extremely online and they're ideologically opposed to Trump and Musk just because of their ideology. They're not going to be like, oh man, or Musk isn't going to be like, oh man, this is such a blow to Doge, and now we should just stop doing what we're doing and blah blah blah. It's like, it's such a ridiculous thing to even think would come up. They're not going to be adversarial. It's just stupid.
Well, you got to think about this part as well. And this is the biggest takeaway that I have from it is obviously Democrats lost the plot a long time ago, but you have to think of the Americans sitting at home right now and Democrats making this massive fuss about federal workers having to respond to this 5.2 minute email. What do you think people sitting at home are thinking about this? Do you think they're siding with the Democrats and be like, oh, that's such a shame, these people that I'm paying with this tax?
No.
What an injustice. That's not what they're thinking.
No.
That's why Doge's approval rating is so high.
Yeah, and
And
the argument that it's not high, I think that's I don't buy it at all.
there's not a single poll that shows them underwater.
Yeah, and I also think that, you have the pundits and the Democrats freaking out about Doge, but you don't have, like you guys are saying, you don't have the voters freaking out. And I think the voters aren't freaking out, both Republican voters, independent voters, and Democrat voters, because we all are out here with jobs. We all know what it is to have a job. We know what it is to pay taxes. And most of us are really, those of us who have withholding tax are really sick of seeing all that money just get extracted from our paychecks so that we can continue to have bad roads, trans operas in Peru, and all of these workers who can't even respond to a damn email. Come on.
Let's jump to this story from the New York Post. Jon Stewart cuts open his hand while smashing mug in anger at ex-President Biden. I'll be going to the hospital soon. The first thing I want to say is he did cut his hand in an obvious pre-scripted bit where he'd break a mug, and that's fine.
You can tell because he moved the lamp out of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And he wasn't angry. It was a bit. He was making a joke by smashing the mug. The important point of the story is not that he cut his hand open. I hope he's okay. It's that he was playing this game of... Yes, he calls himself Doge Curious and says, we want to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. And then he does what he's always done best. Obfuscates the issue to confuse lower cognitive functioning individuals to pull them away from the obvious truth. What's happening right now with Doge is that they're going where they're going to departments that are giving away money, that are paying people who aren't working, and they're cutting wasteful spending and abuse right away. Because that is a threat to the establishment machine, Jon Stewart has to be in opposition to what Trump is. But how can he when Doge is a popular concept? Cutting wasteful spending, who's going to disagree with that? Especially if they say, we will give you a $5,000 check once we pull $2 trillion in funding. So Jon Stewart says, I'm Doge curious. I like the idea, but they're in the wrong place. We got to cut tax subsidies for big corporations. And then he says, excuse me, because they're screwing you over at a Diddy party and making you pay for the baby oil. The simple point is this. Jon Stewart's whole bit is that the answer to wasteful spending is to increase taxes on corporations and not at all to fire people wasting money, stealing money, or defrauding the government, or not at all to lower your taxes. His whole segment is, no, Trump is bad. Trump is firing people, but it doesn't do anything. We need to raise taxes on corporations. And my response just is, there's going to be people who fall for it. They're like, yeah, well, who cares about gender studies? Why is Walmart getting a tax subsidy? And it's like, okay, tax subsidy means a discount on their taxes.
Right.
They're not being given money. So we're not paying them. You're basically saying you want to raise their taxes. Okay, fine, I guess. But what does that have to do with what Doge is doing?
Sure, absolutely, and you know another big point of this, because we're not just talking about big businesses and everything. We're talking about you'll see people on X and pretty much every other platform at this point whining about the fact that, oh, well, Elon just cut $500,000. Like that's nothing for the federal government. It's like somebody worked their entire life to pay $500,000. I mean, think about somebody 75 years old. How much did they pay in taxes their entire life? Does it get to the point where it's $500,000? That's working an entire lifetime to pay off this measly $500,000 bill. To fund gender studies and transgender operas in Cambodia. I mean,
there should be, like, if you're in a certain tax bracket, there should be a cap on how much money you spend in taxes in your lifetime. Somehow that should work out.
Holy cow, that is like the exact opposite of what Elad was talking about.
Right, you're saying like the most tax you could ever pay would be like $10 million or something?
Whatever it is, yeah, I don't know. I think that I should be done paying taxes.
Or just not pay any taxes.
But I'd imagine that would be a good amount, but not like. I
feel like I'm done. Like, I've paid so much in taxes. I look at it and I'm like, damn, you guys took my money.
Well, so the difficult thing is
stop the bleeding.
The difficult thing now is to assess the rate by which we tax people. I'd have to know how much you've paid.
Oh, I can't reveal that.
Right, so that's the issue.
Humiliating.
If we're talking about if we're talking about a low number, like after you pay $200,000 in taxes, you're done.
Yeah.
Then most people are done. Most people are done in their 20s, probably.
I feel like a lot of people don't realize how much they spend in income taxes.
It's so much money. And when I lived in New York, you had New York City taxes
I didn't say
and state.
I said taxes.
Oh, well, okay, even better.
I like that even better. Yeah. But I was thinking income taxes specifically. But in New York City, you pay city taxes and you pay state taxes and then you pay federal taxes.
Yep.
Plus you pay, 8.75 sales taxes. That's crazy.
Yeah,
There's a lot of that.
I can't believe there are people that still live in New York City. I can't believe
It's the greatest city on earth. It just,
It's what?
It's the greatest city on earth.
That is not correct.
According to who?
According to me, obviously, I'm the one talking.
I disagree.
It's better than Philadelphia.
You put your garbage on right in front of your buildings, just out.
Better than DC.
Well, sure.
It's better than LA.
No.
No, I can't even go there with that.
They don't have a
It's better
trash
than
service.
LA.
They do have
can
trash
walk
service in the
everywhere.
valleys.
San Diego's absolutely
You can walk
beautiful.
everywhere.
It's great year round.
Yeah, I'm sorry. San Diego's better than New York. I'm not saying San Diego's the best
awesome.
either, though.
Why
haven't
would you
been to
want
San
to?
Diego in a long
Honolulu's
time.
pretty great too.
I've never been there.
It's pretty
Listen,
awesome.
Libby, New York smells like sour milk.
Not all the time. Sometimes it smells like maple syrup.
The sun comes out and that sour milk is strong through the air. It's
Maple syrup.
It's
pretty
true,
good.
man. Yo, New York.
Stabbed in the
Is it-
subway, and
I never got stabbed.
thankfully
My mom's boyfriend got stabbed when I was a kid.
I didn't. I know someone that did. I never got stabbed,
How
but I
many
know someone
people do you know
did.
that have been stabbed around here? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
There's-
A homeless person slept in my car the other night.
What?
Greatest city on earth.
Yeah. Here. Here.
Wait. Someone opened your car and went into your car and.
I went to my car in the morning and it reeked of cigarettes. And I don't smoke cigarettes. And no one's been in my car who smokes
Door
cigarettes.
locked?
No, I didn't lock the car. I forgot to lock the car. I live in a rural
Well, I don't
area.
think anyone slept in it. Someone smoking may have rifled through your car.
Someone went in my
So
car.
wait, you don't live
All
in
my-
New York City, but you're saying that it's the greatest city in the world. Why not live there?
Yeah.
Why not
Well, I
live there?
used to live there, and now I bought a house around here.
Yeah, I'd probably flee too because no, everybody, it's like at this point you go there. Like, I mean, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but you go to New York, you can't even afford unless you have a decent income. You can't even afford to go visit New York at this point.
Well, no, visiting
Let's
New
talk
York
about
is way
railroad
more
apartments.
expensive.
Let's talk about
visiting
railroad
is-
apartments. Those should be illegal.
Yes, those should be legal. But visiting is
a
way more
railroad that is.
expensive than living
So they'll
there.
call it a 3-bedroom,
It's
but
like a shotgun shack.
okay, it'll say 3-bedroom apartment, and what it is there's a living room, and then there's a door in the middle of on each wall, and you walk into the next one, and there's another room, And that's bedroom 1. And then you walk through bedroom 1 to get to bedroom 2. And then you walk through bedroom 2 to get to bedroom 3. So when you live in a railroad apartment with roommates, the middle of your room is the hallway. And this is how people in New York live. And I was like,
it's a third world country at that. Is that even legal? I didn't think that was legal.
And the crazier still is the bachelor apartments, which are becoming more and more popular, which is terrifying. I lived in LA. And I knew some people, they were skateboarders, and they rented bachelor apartments. Why? Well, they don't care. They're scuzzy skateboarders who make minimum wage working at a burger shop. And they were like, bro, it's $300 a month and I get a place to sleep. Bachelor apartments, you know what that is? It is a single room that's probably like 5 by 10. Yes, super. Well, no, maybe it's like, maybe 8 by, no, not by 20.
Are these
no,
like
sir.
little pied-à-terre type of things?
You walk in a building and you basically have a closet with a window. And you have a bed.
No wonder you're a bachelor.
You have a bed in it. It's a bachelor. They're called bachelor apartments. The bathrooms are all shared, and it's a couple $100 a month. That used to be wow, you must be broke. Like it was for temporary workers and people who are, just otherwise not able to afford something. They're common now among Gen Z in New York. Gen Zers post videos where they're like, this one costs $1,800, and there's no bathroom. There's a sink. It's one room with a sink in it, and they're like, can't afford it. That's what New York has become. And the sour milk smell. Like everybody
maybe more
knows
of us should live on the Gulf of America. We've got like 5 states, states bordering the Gulf of America.
We went to New York. We did a big Times Square campaign and got a bunch of billboards up. And we were like, we're going to bring all the crew and we're going to go and take pictures at the billboards because, we're doing a big marketing thing. That morning, as we were arriving in New York, a man took a machete, walked up to an old lady and just slashed her in the back.
Listen, they're
What is
ruining
going
it
on?
for sure, but it was really good. I mean, when we had
You're backtracking now.
I still think it's the best city on earth.
Yes, but then all of that being said, they also filmed the Daily Show there.
Daily Show.
It's
With
filmed
the-
in New York.
Isn't that Trevor Noah?
No, it's Jon Stewart.
Jon
Literally,
Stewart.
It was
he does
Trevor
one.
Noah?
Yeah,
I don't watch that show.
it's really funny how Trevor Noah became alt-right. Did you see that video? That went viral?
The one where it turns out he's really pro-segregation?
No, he's alt-right. He literally said Finland for the Finns. Like, I'm not trying to be cute by saying he's alt-right. Trevor Noah, formerly of The Daily Show, had a viral podcast video. It was at Timcast News. Follow at Timcast News. We posted this, where he literally says, "Did you ever notice that things are going really well in Finland? Why? Because they're all Finnish." He then says, Trevor Noah says, if a black person shouts, he knows what they're saying because they're black.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like,
and he was talking about segregation.
and I was
Basically,
just like,
he's in favor of it.
but he's not talking about that's
He's in favor of separate, like race-based society.
yes, but it goes more than that. I would agree he's arguing for segregation, but at the national level. When he argued that Finland should be for the Finns, I was like, yo,
It's the most base thing he's ever said.
this guy should have a conversation with some white nationalists because they're going to completely agree with him.
Did
Yeah,
he
they will
realize
be
what
on
he
the
was
same
saying?
page.
Yes. And he said the problem with segregation was that certain black folks couldn't get bank loans. And obviously that's all bad, oppression. But his argument was black people should be, in this is what Trevor Noah argued, separate. And he argued that Finland works because they're all Finnish. And then he says, he's like if you shout at me, I know what you're saying because you're black. And it's like, I got to be honest, guys, I'm gonna need your help on this one. See, I come from a mixed background. So maybe I'm lacking the ability to understand the guttural grunts from individual races. But do you, as pure-blooded white people, understand each other's grunts like Trevor Noah does?
I don't know how many grunts I'm
there's a
getting.
yes.
Do you grunt?
I
I mean, he's
don't
from
grunt.
Philadelphia. They have their own dialect.
We whistle.
We whistle.
You got a Philly grunt.
You know,
but he's
when I'm in the grocery store and I lose my kid or whatever, if I just go, yo, I'm the only one. He knows where I am. He finds me.
But
It's
Trevor
the Philly
Noah said,
language.
if you
It's
shout
Philly
at me,
language.
I know what you are saying because you're black. And it's like, is there race language that I don't know
I
about?
thought that was weird too. I was like, I understand cultural cues. Like, when you move around regionally in the United States, like sometimes you won't understand cultural cues that are going on. But I don't really think that they're race, to me, like they're regional based. They're regionally based.
Well,
like
but
when
I
I moved out
agree
here, I didn't always understand what people were saying. Like if it took me a while to understand that when somebody says bless your heart, they don't really mean a nice thing to you. You know?
Yeah, they're saying you're naive.
Right. Which apparently, works. Right. But like there's cultural cues all over the place.
Sure, and everyone I think agrees with that. Trevor Noah's point was that it's like his argument was literally if you take two black people and put them in a forest and they're from two parts of the planet and they walk up to each other, they're going to make grunting sounds and understand each other.
That's pretty weird.
That's very weird.
Yeah.
What is he?
Is that not true with Asians, Tim?
Well, I'm saying I must lack this ability because I certainly have never understood any guttural sounds from Asians.
Yeah.
So how do you keep
white
up with it
people,
in
for that
your in your greatest city on earth over there when you have everybody from
You're
countries?
never gonna get me to say New York.
But you go there and
New York was great in the late '80s.
Well, that's when my mom's boyfriend got stabbed.
Right, but it was getting cleaned up.
It was also good in the '90s and the early 2000s.
Trump came in, right? Cleaned up that town, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he made it the #1 city.
Yeah, he did a great job. Giuliani. And then Bloomberg came in and injected just like millions and millions of dollars of his own cash. There'd be like a budget shortfall for the Met, and he'd be like, "Oh, here's just a little anonymous. It's anonymous, you guys," and be like, "Yeah, that's right."
But it is insane to see how much they are fighting against what.
Yeah.
I don't see Eric Adams as I don't think he's been red pilled. I don't think he's a Republican. He's definitely not MAGA, but they have totally turned against him. And, they were trying to push for this literal socialist radical. I mean, he may even be communist.
Well, there was Maya Wiley, too. I mean, she's the one who literally went into the house and was like, "A woman is anyone who says she is." And it's like, okay.
But what is in the water in New York that's making these people think this way? How can you
Water
live
comes from upstate.
upstate?
With natural pressure.
Right.
Yeah, from the
It's an
elevation.
aqueducts. Yeah.
No, but
But how there's a secret stream in New York?
Yeah,
They
really.
built a building over it, but you can look over a wall and see the original stream is still there.
That's very cool.
There's a guy made a video 10 years ago about it. Went viral.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it smells like sour milk, so I wouldn't want to go there.
I
Well-
can't.
Let's
I'm not drinking out of that.
let's jump to this next story. This one is very spicy, so let's just make sure we keep this one. As this story gets increasingly terrifying, we'll keep this one family-friendly, guys. We got to be careful. Texas rancher killed by suspected cartel IED on Mexican border as authorities warn of growing threat. Yeah, Trump's been warning of this threat. A Texas border rancher was killed near the border by a suspected cartel IED earlier this month, the Texas Department of Agriculture told the Post Tuesday, as officials issued an urgent safety warning for the Rio Grande Valley. Rancher Antonio, how do you pronounce that? Cespedes Saldierna, 74, who worked on both sides of the border, along with Horacio Lopez Pena, were killed in the blast in Tamaulipas, Mexico, which is just south of Brownsville, Texas. Lopez's wife, Ninfa Griselda Ortega, was hospitalized with injuries. Man, take a look at this. The blast occurred just south of Brownsville. So, look, Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller said the deadly explosion is part of a growing threat posed by cartel activity and encourages ranchers to exercise extreme caution. I encourage everyone in the agricultural industry to stay vigilant, remain aware of their surroundings, and report any suspicious activity to law enforcement. Additionally, you can avoid dirt roads in remote areas, refrain from touching unfamiliar objects that could be explosive devices, limit travel to daylight hours, stay on main roads, and avoid cartel-controlled regions. This is
just avoid Mexico. Is what?
This is important. This is presumably an American man, 2 American men, presumably. I don't know. Texas rancher. Donald Trump has named many of these cartels as terrorist organizations, which opens the door to drone strikes.
Exactly.
Yep.
What action would Donald Trump take, knowing that Americans are now being killed by individuals suspected to be cartels planting bombs?
The United States has used our military to go after cartels in the past, and it's not so there is precedent for this. I don't think that it's outside of the realm of possibility to think that the U.S. will just put drones in the air over Mexico. Mexico does not have the ability to say no. They don't have the ability to stop us. I don't think they have a significant air force. I don't know about Mexico's military, but if they can't keep the cartels from taking over significant portions of the country. I'm confident they don't have the ability to stop the United States. And if the Mexicans, I mean, it was 36 people were murdered, 36 people that were trying to become the Mexican president until Sheinbaum finally they allowed her to become the president. 36 people. The Mexican government is not in control of Mexico. It's the cartels.
Yeah.
So the United States has legitimate reason to say, look, if you can't control this territory and these people are actually killing Americans on American soil, then we're going to do something.
I mean, the trafficking alone has killed millions and millions and millions upon Americans. I would like to see, what do we do? Let's send in a Predator drone to Mexico. Take these guys out. What's Mexico going to do about it? How are they going to stop it?
They can't even keep this. They can't even keep
this
the
is
name of
arguably
their
a
own body of
declaration,
water.
a declaration of war on Mexico.
We're talking roadside bombs right at the border? You've got to be kidding me.
Where was it? So I know that it's on the border, but the border's a very, very thin line. Where was it? Was it in the United States or was it in Mexico?
A lot of these ranches, they sort of span.
Where was the bomb?
Right, that's the question.
Because the wall is not the marker of the border.
It was in Mexico.
It was in Mexico?
Yeah.
All right.
It was a drone then, an IED, or was
No.
it just it was in
It
the
was an
ground?
IED.
Oh,
and they're
okay,
saying
IED.
that it was in Mexico, south of Brownsville, Texas.
Okay.
But was it an American man working on both sides? If Americans are being killed at, near, or south of the border, we've got a problem. So I don't know that we could drone strike. Because Congress would need to have to make a declaration. Mexico would have to be involved. You could theoretically issue mark and reprisal letters, but now you're basically saying we're going to allow privateers to go onto the border to deal with the cartels. And that's opening up the door to more chaos than there already is. To be fair, though, I'm not saying we do nothing. Something has to be done to deal with this. Maybe the heavy troop presence will be enough. I don't know.
It's
But
possible that
we also know you have to figure out when the IED was placed, too. When was it placed? Was it recent? Are they further militarizing themselves at this point? Against a possible incursion by American troops? I mean, what's going on there? Why was this IED placed in that location? And I don't know if you've been. I just got back from this area, south of Brownsville, Texas, Matamoros, which is Tamaulipas, whatever it is. That's the Mexican state. Where Matamoros is, and you have this wall, and you see these big gates in the wall because Americans own farms that are on both sides of the wall. So it's a good chance that this guy owned the farm that straddles the border and just went directly over, and they placed it in his farm.
Right.
So that's
And you had the story of the guy in Arizona who got criminally charged with shooting an illegal immigrant passing over his property.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't remember exactly what he said, but there were gunshots and he fired back and then they didn't care. And the Biden administration wanted to make sure that he went to prison. I mean, the Biden administration was abject evil
Yeah.
in the targeting of just regular Americans over insane things.
I'm not sure that I'm not positive about this, but if the cartels are designated as terrorists, it might still the authorization to use a military force might still cover that.
I believe it does. I believe it does.
The AUMF that they gave to Bush was for the Middle East.
Was it
Yes.
region specific?
The authorization for use of military force, I believe, was specifically targeting the Middle East.
Because I thought that it was the authorization to go after international terror rings because they were all over the country or all over the world.
It was the AUMF in 2001 for Bush was specifically to go after those who planned, authorized, committed, or aided the September 11th attacks.
Okay, so then what was
There was a 2003 AUMF.
that was to go into Iraq because Congress didn't want to vote
Right.
on war.
I believe, yeah.
This-
I believe that was 03. Authorization for use of military force 03. Oh, okay, maybe not. That was 2002. Okay. And it was specifically for Iraq.
Okay.
But does anybody really believe that Trump is going to base his decision as to whether or not he'll drone strike cartels based on what the Mexican president has to say about
No,
it?
again, the Mexican president is a puppet. Like, there's no question.
She wouldn't have
about
gotten in there. There's no way for her to
exactly.
get in there. With
36 people died, and then she was the one that got elected. And why did they let her in? Because she's a puppet.
if you genuinely wanted to get rid of the cartels in Mexico, if you're the Mexican president, and why would you work so hard to block the greatest, the strongest, most capable military in the world from going in there and eradicating the cartels? I mean,
You remember how many candidates were assassinated though before they elected this Mexican president?
Like this one can go. This one.
I mean,
can get
the United States literally should just say, listen, you don't have the ability to stop this. Americans are dying, so we're going to stop it.
Of
No,
course.
any action that Mexico takes, I've seen it myself. Even I know Trump has put more pressure on them now, and they might be doing something a little bit different. But I was down there, I was standing next to the Mexican National Guard. They saw people being trafficked over the border. They chose to do nothing about it. They were like, oh, well, they're too far gone. We can't locate them. So I went on foot myself and went and tracked down these people that were being trafficked over the border by the cartels. They're not interested in stopping it. It's all a farce. They're just acting like it. In their mind, they don't have any incentive to do so. They can't be trusted. It has to be our troops at the end of the day.
Okay,
what did you guys think of this proposal for like a privateer type of
market
force?
reprisal.
Yeah, what did you guys think about that?
I think it's a bad idea. I don't know. Look, you're basically telling Mexico we're authorizing PMCs, private groups, to go in there and start dealing with cartels, which is going to be war on their.
That seems warish, yeah.
Well, and it's not that we're declaring war, but basically like we'd basically be saying you've got cartels. We're going to be sending in our violent guys with guns to go stop them, and it's going to be chaos in Mexico.
Right.
They're going to be like, nah.
Mexico has already been trying to like sue American gun manufacturers.
I mean,
market reprisal may be the only answer. That may just be no good answer.
The idea that the response to the United States declaring the cartels terrorists, the response by the Mexican government, by the President Sheinbaum, is that we're going to expand legal action against gun manufacturers in the United States. That's absolutely ridiculous because they're blaming people that make guns in the U.S. for sale in the U.S. for the problems of the cartels. You don't have the ability to police your own damn country, and you're blaming arms manufacturers in the United States. Unacceptable.
They don't even attempt to try to stop the flow into Mexico. I mean,
because they'll die.
I went into Mexico without a passport. I just walked across the border because they don't ask for it. You just walk through. Okay, you could. They have no idea what I have.
You went to a non-port of entry. You're saying?
No. I went to a port of entry, and I just walked through. I mean, not that you couldn't just walk. Across around the wall.
When you drive in, they just wave you through. Yeah, you don't stop.
Wow.
You from the United States into Mexico, from San Diego to Tijuana, you're driving and you slow down to like 5 miles an hour, and they just go,
nope,
just fan you in. When you're coming back, however, the Americans stop and check your passports.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a bad idea to do the privateering, because it could just open the door to what we've seen in Ukraine, where people just are selling arms like on the black market.
Is that what's going on in Ukraine?
I mean, I've
because you've been there.
We reported on that a few years ago when Jack and I went over. But yeah, they will offer donations to mercenaries, and then you send your money over there, and it just gets spent on totally different things as what you sent the money for.
So is that actually one of the, and you may or may not know this, but there's like, we don't know where a lot of the stuff went that we sent over there, or these billions and billions and billions. So is that what's happening? It's being sent over there, and then it's being sold off, being auctioned off, being given to mercenaries? Like, what's the...
Well, that's what I witnessed when I was over there. I can't say that's the case for 100% of the money.
Well, nobody knows where 100% of the money is. Nobody knows where 50% of the money is at this point. So,
no. Well, apparently, as we saw in Tucker, a lot of the arms that went over there ended up getting into the hands of the cartels.
Yep. Yeah.
Coming back for us.
We got breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. This just from Jesse Waters. Tulsi Gabbard says that 100 plus intelligence officials involved in the deep state sex chat will have their security clearances revoked. Let's play the clip now. Apparently, this just aired.
Well, Jesse, what we're going to do has already been done. There are over 100 people from across the intelligence community that contributed to and participated in this, what is really just an egregious violation of trust, what to speak of like basic rules and standards around professionalism. I put out a directive today that they all will be terminated and their security clearances will be revoked.
Let's go,
but
Tulsi.
the thing here, Jesse, is like, we got to take a step back, because this is just barely scratching the surface. When you see what these people were saying, and thanks to Chris Rufo for putting it all out online, they were brazen in using an NSA platform intended for professional use to conduct this kind of really, really horrific behavior. And they were brazen in doing this because when was the last time anyone was really held accountable? Certainly not over the last 4 years, certainly not over the last 10, maybe 20 years. When we look at some of the biggest violations of the American people's trust in the intelligence community. So today's action in holding these individuals accountable is just the beginning of what we're seeing across the Trump administration, which is carrying out the mandate the American people gave him. Clean house, root out that rot and corruption and weaponization and politicization, so we can start to rebuild that trust in these institutions that are charged with an important mission of serving the American people, ensuring our safety, security, and freedom.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's got to go further.
We got action from the government. This is something we never would have seen under the Biden administration.
Absolutely.
These individuals who are clearly look. I just want to make sure this is understood by everybody. The same people who demand we get these workplace sexual harassment seminars where they tell you can't do this, we're literally doing it. And
they're the same ones.
And let me just say, somewhat figuratively, what I mean is, it is these left liberal types who are screaming out inequality, oppression, and intersectional whatever and what's it, which would their policies would ban the behaviors they're engaged in, and they do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And now they're all fired, and they should be, and they've got their clearances revoked. They're never going to work intelligence again.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
Well, it needs to go further than this because now we have to look at who did they target. These people had these security clearances, these top-level security clearances. Who were they going after? Who were they pulling dirt on? I mean, you see, like Libs of TikTok, Kaya Rajcik was specifically mentioned in one of these weird sex chats.
Really?
Yeah. And so they have this pretty much unfettered access to, I mean, you've seen what the intelligence community is capable of, and tapping people's cell phones, digging into their
after
emails,
Catholics,
and
going after parents.
Right. That needs to be investigated.
Right.
Who did they target? If they're calling Kaya Rajcik a terrorist, and if they believe that, what did they do to her? Were they reading her emails? Were they reading her text messages? They had the ability to.
Yeah,
that needs to be investigated. And if they did, jail.
It's sort of it's been true across the board, and it's been such a short period of time that the Trump administration has been clearing house over here in this area. They're dealing with the FBI. People have already been reassigned. Mm-hmm. The IRS agents are looking at being reassigned. You know, today you had this wild thing in the White House where the press secretary said that the White House Correspondents Association, basically like the press pool, would be taken over by the White House, and they wouldn't let the rot in that organization keep seeping in, you know, and that's actually all because of Kevin over here, who's coined Gulf of America, and then the next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. The AP gets banned, and the White House Correspondents Association doesn't even have any standing in the White House anymore.
Amazing!
It's amazing, but they're clearing everything out.
Well,
how did you feel about that, Kevin, when you found out that not only did the AP get banned, but the entire way that the press organization is working at the White House has changed, all because of the Gulf of America?
It feels incredible, honestly. Yeah, I mean, it's just the domino meme, you know, me on a wave runner, and now all of a sudden, everybody has to put an application in to get in the White House press briefing.
Well, at this point, you know, you see the signs, and so the White House Correspondents Association went we stand with the AP. They were putting up signs in the briefing room saying that. It's like, okay, yeah, go stand with AP on the sidewalk. You can report from outside.
It's been 2 weeks. It's been 14 days. I looked it up. Yeah, since they've been allowed in.
But people don't understand this. They're like, oh, well, you know, why doesn't somebody like Nick Sortor, why doesn't Tim Pool have a spot in the White House briefing room? Well, that's because up until now, it was controlled by the cartel known as the White House Correspondents Association. And controlled by the left wing. I think the chair, I believe, is like I think she's a reporter for NBC.
And the argument that you always hear is, oh, well, this is an attack on free speech, which is the same argument they make when you talk about getting rid of books that are sexually explicit in schools. But just like that argument, curation and deciding who is and is not allowed in is not a limit on free speech. It is just a limit on the space inside of the room. If the administration decides that they don't want to let this particular organization in, they have every right to do that because they exclude hundreds and probably thousands of press organizations from actually being able to access the White House.
Well, the
press
Biden administration, you remember them? Like, we'd never see any of this stuff if it was
No.
still Joe Biden. They
We didn't see Joe Biden either.
Well, we
Did they
didn't
sue
see
over
Joe
that?
Biden either. But like, do you remember Joe Biden would stand there, and when he did take questions, how many times did he take questions from the press? Like 4 or 5 times in his entire 4
4 years.
years.
Maybe
He was a
as he was
train wreck
walking
each
by
night.
into the house or off the
Right.
helicopter.
But when he did actually take questions, he had a list of people that he would read from, and he'd be
That's
like,
right,
"Oh, you with the
pre-selected
AP." Pre-selected questions, pre-selected reporters.
Yeah. And then if he'd go off that and like choose somebody, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble. They're gonna yell at me.
And it's not a law. It's not a law. It's a policy in the White House.
So AP is suing, obviously, the Trump administration over lack of transparency or whatever, but they never took any legal action against Joe Biden for banning everybody from the
Biden banned
Oval
400.
Office.
What was it, like
keep in mind,
440
too,
people?
the
He pulled.
AP was quick to follow on policy when they changed the name from Kiev to Kyiv.
Right,
know?
right.
They're quick to make policy changes on that, but not.
A mom to inseminated person. I mean, that's
the
fake
the
news if I've
Wisconsin
ever heard
thing.
of it.
That is such trash.
Yeah.
Natural parent instead of father.
But they have an entire it's like called the AP style book, and it's like
Yeah.
cancer. You can go in and read it, and it is just the most
You
woke
capitalize
garbage.
black and
Anyway-
white.
anyway.
Right, but
yeah. No,
back to
black
the
and not
intelligence
white.
Lowercase white.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't know how that segue happened.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard firing a bunch of people, and I'm curious with her as director of national intelligence saying she's going to fire 100+ people. I'm wondering if the move that Elon, Trump, Kashdan, and many others may make next is going to be targeting the most minute of reasonable cause firings. That is, anything anybody has done that is cause, you're fired.
Hopefully. I mean, look, if you're going to actually make significant cuts, you have to fire people, and you have to have cause to fire people. So they're probably going to say, look, you have broken this rule, this rule, this rule. I mean, it's just like when a company starts like having a pattern of behavior, they'll start looking for if they want to get rid of you, they're going to look for little things to say that you've done. When they get enough that they feel they can actually bring you in front of HR, they bring you into HR and said, look, these things you've done, and those things might get overlooked with anyone else. They might be no reason or no big deal, but if they decided that they want to fire you for whatever reason, they come up with as many reasons as they can, so that way
This
they have.
is pretty egregious, though.
Absolutely,
I mean, I have
yes,
to
yes.
say, if I discovered something like this happening at my organization, I'd be like, "Hey, you're all out."
100%, but that's not the point. The point is, like Tim said, if they're going to be looking for all of the little reasons, that's exactly how they're going to have to come up with justification.
Right.
Because right now, you end up with lawsuits, and you end up with unions trying to defend people. So you have to have as many reasons, as many small reasons as possible, so that way you don't have to answer for every individual person that gets fired or to a court, which I think eventually it's going to end up in front of the Supreme Court anyways. And the question at hand, which we've talked about on the show multiple times, does the executive have the authority to fire people or not? And according to Article 2 in the Constitution, the executive does.
Because the
Did you
agencies
see
all
that-
come under, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that viral post from that woman where she claimed the DOJ was the legislative
Right, what was up with that?
judicial control?
Yeah,
Idiocy.
totally
She has
ridiculous.
Mike Cernovich tweeted, where in the Constitution does it say that the executive doesn't have control of the DOJ? And this PhD woman responds, oh my God, they're so dumb. I can't believe they'd repost this. It's right here. And then posts about judicial controls, making the argument that the Department of Justice is under the judiciary, which it is not. It's an executive branch. And then insults Mike Cernovich, saying you're getting your news from a juice salesman. And I'm like, see, this is where liberals are. They're like, I have been given a piece of paper, so I'm smarter than you. And it's like, okay, well, you're not. You were wrong, and this is terrifying that you live in this world. But these are communists. Not all of them, but these are the people who live in rigid hierarchical authority structures where if a person has a degree, they're better than you. That's the way it works. Mm-hmm. It's like, could you imagine what it must be like to be a liberal where you like sit down and you go, I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, so I propose we do it this way. And he goes, I have a master's. And they go, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, listen, we're going to go over the proposals. Just because you have a degree doesn't immediately just give you the authority to say it. Because otherwise, these people with PhDs are some dumb MFers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because there's so many people that are looking to like we were talking about earlier, just like be able to say, oh, look, we got to dunk on Musk or dunk on any other person in the administration. It's all for ideological reasons. They have no desire to actually do something that benefits people. They think, oh, if we can just keep people in these positions, it's good for everybody, when clearly it's not. It's only good for people with a certain ideological disposition. So I don't think that I don't think that there's anything that we're going to be able to do about it other than do as much firing as possible. Kevin O'Leary was on CNN the other day, and they were apoplectic that he was saying this, but he was saying cut. And it's okay if you cut too much, because you can always rehire people. You can always find people to fill those positions. But cut as much as you can while you're cutting.
Let's jump to this story, formerly from Fox News. Trump admin guts White House Correspondents Association in bid to end monopoly of D.C. journalists. The White House Correspondents Association has determined access to the White House for decades. Eugene Daniels, who is the Politico chief playbook correspondent and the WHC president, has issued a statement. I'm going to read it, but it's so cringe. He says, "This move tears the independence of a free press in the United States. It suggests the government will choose the journalists who cover the president. In a free country, leaders must not be able to choose their own press corps. For generations, the working journalists elected to lead the White House Correspondents Association board have consistently expanded the WHCA's membership and its pool, blah, blah, blah. Since its founding in 1914, don't care, blah, blah." To be clear, the White House did not give the WHCA board a heads up or have any discussion about today's announcements, but the WHCA will never stop advocating for comprehensive access, blah, blah, don't care. These are elitist, credentialist individuals who keep out anybody who doesn't toe their political line. It is a corrupt institution that should be disbanded in disgrace. And the Trump administration did the right thing by saying anyone can apply now. Yeah. And they're making excuses by saying, so the government chooses? Well, yeah, the president doesn't need to give you the space in front of him to hear what he has to say. He chooses. This all got started because the AP thought they had the right to be in the Oval Office whenever they wanted. Think about how insane this is. Trump says, we're going to be doing this. We're going to be signing this executive order. Why don't we invite the press in to watch? Not you, AP. And they said, well, you have to because we're entitled to be in there. Sued, and a judge blocked it, not on the grounds that they're not entitled. The judge blocked it because they couldn't demonstrate harm. And they said the information coming out is available to everybody. You get out of here. What's crazy to me is that there's actually an argument that these people are making, and judges may entertain, that Trump is obligated to have the press staring in his face 100% of the time. That's insanity. So the AP said, we should be allowed to be in your office when we decide, not you. So Trump says, okay, WHCA, you're gone. Now we're going to decide when people can come in, and we invite them in, as it should be.
Well, and there's limited space, right? The Oval Office only holds a certain number of people. On Air Force One, there's only 13 seats for reporters. And I read the brief that the White House submitted in response to the AP's suit that they gave to the judge. And in that brief, they laid out very clearly that the AP has not actually been harmed in any way because they still have access to all the pool reporting. That's the videos, the questions, the audio, photographs, anything else. And if you go to their website and you look at their stories since they've been banned from the Oval Office and the other locations, they still have the same exact kind of reporting that they did before. They still have the videos. They still have everything. And I thought it was pretty interesting that Caroline Leavitt today said in the White House that they would open up that seat to other journalists. Like, could you imagine, like, Timcast has a seat in the Oval Office or on Air Force One getting to travel around? What? Like that?
You're not going to dead name the Gulf of America. We know that for sure.
I wouldn't do that.
No.
I was calling it Gulf of America before it was cool.
Right?
But, you know, you have to, you really think about it. It's like there's only one condition. They can get their creds back tomorrow. All they have to do is just stop publishing fake news of whatever the Gulf of Mexico is. I don't even know what that is anymore.
It is funny
just
that
say
he was
Gulf
like,
of America. You'll get in. That's it. You get your creds back.
Carolyn Leavitt is like, the Secretary of the Interior has updated records to display this as the Gulf of America, and you've decided you will not report that. And AP's like, yeah. And they're like, and then we can choose not to invite you in because these are private events. And they were like, we'll sue you. It is just, okay, I'm going to pause. Democrats, can I sue the next Democrat administration because they won't let me in the Oval Office?
Yeah, what makes them better than you?
I'm a reporter.
Right.
We got a big show. We got a big show. Some say the biggest. And I'm going to sue the next time a Democrat's in office because they have to let me in. Those are their rules, right? And then I'm going to sit there just staring at the president with my mouth hanging open.
I know that under the Biden administration, when the post-millennial tried to just get questions answered, not even get into the White House, which we also tried to get press passes and nobody would ever get back to us. But I know that they wouldn't even answer questions. They'd answer questions like 2-3 weeks later, and it would be like, oh, you have to talk to somebody else. It's totally useless.
I mean, you probably
And now we've had, like, one of our reporters got in for a press briefing, and it was no problem. We have a hard pass. You know, that's cool. They're just much more receptive and open.
I mean, you probably know this as, somebody that works in journal. I don't know how long you've been in the industry, but Post Millennial is a great publication, pretty big publication.
Hey, thanks.
But the Biden regime was revoking hard passes from people. If they didn't like your question, they would revoke your hard pass to the press briefing room.
Well,
and
or
you
if
weren't
they
allowed
just didn't like your outlet, they raked OAN over the coals. They were like, you're not legitimate. They were really cruel to conservative news outlets and calling them illegitimate just because those outlets weren't, towing the party line.
Did the AP condemn that?
No, the AP didn't say anything.
No, of
As a matter of
course
fact,
they
I was
did.
just looking at that when Tim brought up the Eugene Daniels and the press secretary for or one of Josh Hawley's assistants said, or assistant press secretary, I'm not sure. She said, can someone re-up the statement from the WHCA when Biden's press team was pre-screening press questions? I can't seem to find it.
And who was this? Katrina Pearson or Jen Psaki, right?
Yeah, Jen Psaki. And then it was Karine Jean-Pierre. Yeah, neither of them.
Karine
Let's
Jean-Pierre,
talk
right.
about corporate journalists. There's an organization, I love them. You guys ever hear of freepress.net?
Yep.
They've been around for a long time. Free Press, they call it. Here's their page from 2019 advocating for the total banning of Alex Jones. That's right.
Free press.
The Free Press called on Facebook to ban Alex Jones. And they said, hate speech is not free speech. These people do not believe in a free press. They're lying to you. The White House Correspondents Association is only angry because their ability to control the narrative has just been ripped away from them. You know how much you want to bet they sold access?
You think?
WHCA?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's an oligarchy. That's all it is. It's
Look
Do you have to pay dues? Probably you have to pay
Probably.
dues.
But remember when Twitter was Twitter and verification was only for special people?
Yeah,
And
it
then
was
we
hard to
learned
get
they
verification.
were selling it under the table.
Yeah.
Yep.
People worked at Twitter would be like, I can get you verified. Just give me 10 grand. And then you slide them the money and then they'd go in the computers and verify you. Because it was
And it turns
pay to
out it's
play.
really easy, just like snip, snap, snip, snap.
I got verified for the first time on Twitter when I got hired by Vice. And I said, can you guys get me verified? And they went, yep. Made a phone call and said, verify our guy. And they said, you got it. Boom, I was verified.
Well, so the blue check thing on X, or it was Twitter at the time when Elon opened it up and let anybody do it. The reaction that you're seeing from the WHCA right now is exactly the
Yes.
same reaction
Yep.
that these people had when anybody had the ability to buy blue check marks.
these-
It's the same thing.
So
All status.
you hear from the Fresh and Fit guys about how having Instagram verification, you could slide into any girl's DM because the verification means you're special. That's what it was for journalists.
Yep.
So if you're an influencer on Instagram and you like drive cars or whatever, you can get verified. But journalists don't really work on Instagram. So all these snot-nosed journalists earned I should say, that verification badge was a status symbol for them that they used. I guarantee it. I heard stories of these people, like when you're verified, if they had a complaint with a company, they tweet, the company would freak out and be like, whoa, a verified person is
I had that
causing us problems.
experience, yeah. I was,
And then Elon took it all away from him.
yeah.
Took it all away. He said, anyone can have it for $5
It's always,
or $8. Sorry.
yeah,
The great equalizer.
The $8 meme was great.
Now you have people in their bios now that are people like, I didn't pay for this blue check mark.
Yeah.
They're mad. They don't want to be a part of that. It's so ridiculous.
It's been totally ridiculous, but I mean, it's always been a status symbol and a symbol of, you're one of the cool people, and the fact that was changed really bothered the people that like the status. And on the left, there's a lot of that. The we're one of the good people. We're one of the, we have the correct. I mean, that's the whole point of like political correctness, right? It doesn't matter if you believe it. It's I have the correct opinions. I'm one of the good guys. I'm one of the special people. And that That's exactly what goes on in Washington. If you work in D.C., it's I'm special. I work in the government. I have power. It's all this ego stroking that goes on, and it has very little to do with whether or not you're actually valuable, whether or not what your contribution to the government matters or not. That's all irrelevant.
So I really realized this when I was covering the speaker situation when McCarthy was ousted, and I was really pushing for Jim Jordan. I wanted Jim Jordan in there, and
I like Jordan too.
So yeah, I mean, it was like the best option that we had at the time that was like reasonably possible.
Yeah.
And I went there, and I was going around with Jordan, and just documenting the play-by-play. And there was a group, and he was talking to a group of reporters, and this person came up to me and like pulled me back and said, "You're not allowed to be here," and because I wasn't credentialed. And I'm thinking this is somebody that works at the Capitol that is like controlling access. No, it was some random reporter that had the hard press credentials trying to police whether or not I was allowed to be in the area. Yeah. And I was with one of Matt Gaetz' guys at the time. He said, "No, go tell her to go F herself. She can't do anything to you."
I mean, that's something that you see a lot in like in authoritarian kind of communities, and you saw in situations, and you saw it with COVID, right? Like there were people that were very, very anxious to police the behavior of other people that were not carrying out the proper COVID procedures. They want to be able to use that small little bit of power, that little bit of authority they think they have, and they want to be able to lord it over people. You have these little fiefdoms in D.C., and they have this particular area they're the king of, and I'm in charge, and I get to decide this and that. It's all about ego, and it's all about inflated ego and abuse, is literally being able to abuse people because you're in a position that you think you have authority over.
Yep, and which is actually makes the situation with all these federal employees that are saying, "Oh, it's such a travesty. Well, we're getting fired for cause or whatever." The same people that were saying, "Oh, we should have fired everybody for not taking the COVID vaccine." And so there's a lot of there's a lot of satisfaction in that, Kev. Seeing these same people that were saying that all of us plebs should have been outed, outcasted from society and such for not taking the vaccine.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people that were very quick to do that.
Yep.
And they lost. And Trump won the popular vote and the popular mandate, and his approval rating is the best of his career. And they can cope and they can seethe. And we are now seeing Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, RFK Jr., and it's been fantastic.
Oh, I mean, did you see today talking about Kash and Dan Bongino going and opening an investigation into James Comey now for Spygate? Yep. Oh, wow. So satisfying. This is what we voted for right here.
Wow.
The gloves are off. The floodgates are open. And Bongino doesn't, if you used to listen to him at all every once in a while, he doesn't mess around. This is a guy that's going to go in there. And I would argue that the deputy director of the FBI, after being appointed by the director, that's the guy that runs day-to-day operations at the FBI. He's the one that's actually calling a lot of the shots, and Kash Patel ends up being the figurehead. So Dan Bongino being appointed was such a massive win. They'll soon find out. Dan is somebody that moves quickly and breaks things, and thank God the FBI needs that. There's probably no other organization in the federal government that needs to be broken into small pieces than the FBI.
And splintered into the wind.
Thank you.
Well, but I think with Dan and Kash getting in, I am much more optimistic as to what the FBI will be doing. And I think Kash is going to get them back to fighting crime and going after actual hard criminals. Mm-hmm. It's going to be great. I think Kash, if you've ever listened to him, he's more like the let's get him back to fighting crime. Dan is the we're going to weed out the corruption and destroy the deep state.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should have done that earlier instead of just firing everybody just now from that chat. I think they should have held him and investigated him so we could put him in jail. And honestly,
well, you still can.
You
like
can?
they,
okay.
Yeah, they can still investigate these people.
Okay,
that's what Nick was saying. Like, look into what they've been doing. Because how much you want to bet these people with extreme weird fetishes and left-aligned proclivities likely were doing untoward things for political reasons, and you probably will find criminal actions. Yep.
You think about the FBI talking about how they're actually doing things now. I think FBI Houston has now busted 2 mass shootings in the past 2 weeks, and one of them today we found out was a radical tranny. I don't know. Can I say that word on YouTube? I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the transmission, I guess. But anyway, yeah. So and look back at the J6 situation and how many of those agents, thousands of them, dedicated every single day to tracking down grandmas walking through the Capitol. And now they're actually now they're stopping mass shootings. They're not.
That's totally that's something that it deserves, a little attention. There have been multiple mass shootings that the FBI has actually stopped.
Yep.
Before they happened, right? There's been at least 2 that I know of. And you never heard about a mass shooting that was stopped before this change in the administration.
Right, and it almost became a meme where it was like, okay, well, how long until we hear the FBI say, oh, well, they were on our radar?
It wasn't almost. It absolutely.
Every time.
You took the Bart meme. Say the line, Bart. They were on our radar.
Yep.
Hooray!
Yep.
Everyone knows that meme. So, yeah, and that's something that worth noting. The fact that the FBI actually has the capacity to do things that actually save lives, as opposed to chasing down people that were legitimately not doing things wrong. They went into the Capitol, but they didn't break anything. They didn't steal anything. They weren't violent. There were some people in January 6th that maybe you can say that they caused a problem, that they were violent, that should have been put in jail, but that wasn't the vast majority of them. 1,600 people were not fighting with the cops. There were a few hundred people that were fighting with the cops, and they completely and totally were overdoing the prosecution and investigations.
We're going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button and join us on Rumble Premium? Go to timcastpremium.com, and it will direct you to sign up for Rumble Premium. Use promo code TIM10, and you'll get $10 off. And we're going to have that uncensored call-in show, which is not so family-friendly, but always fun and funny for those that are watching on Rumble Premium. That will be in about 22 minutes, and it's going to be good fun. We bring in our members in the Discord chat to talk to us, and then we have a good laugh. And we hope to see you there. Buy Cast Brew Coffee. Let's read some super chats and some Rumble rants. The Common Neighbor says, I am the walrus. Glad to hear it. Kyle says, I have great respect for Thomas Massie, Tim. Now that Matt Gaetz is out of Congress, who has replaced him as your favorite member of Congress? I said this to Thomas Massie. It was him. Matt Gaetz, I said, was my favorite member because he ripped apart the IOU machine, the deep state neocon machine that was propping up McCarthy. I loved it. Massie was against that. But Massie is still one of the best. Now that Matt Gaetz has left, well, it's a no-brainer. I mean, Thomas Massie is the best. And I disagree with him on a lot of things. I often tweet disagreements with him, but he is one of the only real people actually in Congress, and he's a good dude. He's a great dude, actually. He's my favorite member. Everybody agree? What else do you think?
No, well, I think he came out today and called out the budget,
yeah,
being like, I'm a hard no one. He's like, I went into the meeting with an open mind, and they convinced me to vote no. That was a quote from Massie today.
That's great.
But he's the only one with the balls to do that. Everybody just wants to go along to get along. That's the opposite of what Massie is going to do, and he takes so much heat for it.
Well, he takes heat because he doesn't go and do what the party wants him to do.
Right.
He really does look at it as what does the Constitution say and what's actually good for the budget. He's the guy walking around with the national debt pin that is constantly being updated. So, I mean, he's my favorite member of Congress.
Well, I mean, what'll go down in history was that moment where he walked onto the House floor during COVID and said, I will not let the Republic die by unanimous consent. And at the time, I mean, pretty much every Republican, every Democrat, it was like one of the most least popular moves he could have made in the country. But he did it anyway, and he ended up being very, very right.
He's cut from
the COVID spending bill.
Yeah.
Wild.
He's cut from the same cloth as Ron Paul. Tom Coburn was like that. Tom Coburn was senator from Oklahoma back before he passed away. But yeah, there have been a handful of dudes. I think Rand Paul is probably like that too, or close. Rand is, because he's a senator, he's a little more go along and work with other senators, but he's still cut from the same cloth as his dad. And I think that it's good to have those kind of people in the government, if only to set an example for the rest of Congress.
Right. Quantum Strange Quark says, Tim, congrats to you and Allison for your new baby girl. You two should record a private video for her right now to tell her how you feel about her becoming new parents and show it to her when she gets old enough to appreciate it. I really do appreciate the sentiment, and I will stress it is going to be a very strange generation when they can watch their parents' entire lives recorded on social media. For me, particularly so, because I have done an episode of Timcast IRL and the morning show every day, except for some weekends. So You know how they do those things where it's like, I took a picture of myself every day for 20 years. It's like, well, I recorded a video of myself for 4 hours every day for 8 years. No, it's going to be wild. It's going to be
That's
like,
really funny.
you're going to already, so this, you know what's really creepy? AI watches podcasts. And so these large language models have already mapped out literally everything I've ever said publicly. It's all in their training models. So you can tell them to write something like, do an episode of Timcast IRL, and it will get Phil, it will get me, it'll get Libby. No joke. The crazy thing is, when my kid is old enough, she's going to be able to watch 20 years of my life in news and commentary. Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
She's going to watch
weird.
this episode.
Creepy.
Yeah,
Just be able to like type in tweets and breaking news, and it'll give like a whole AI show of just
Yep.
you and your voice, everything. You
well,
don't even need
they're going to
be
be
there.
able to, they can already do this. Facebook has this technology. They've had it for a very long time where they can take all the data from your profile and then create a chat bot.
Right.
And so there was a story about a guy whose dad died, and then they were testing out this tech, and he was talking to his dad. And it knew everything his dad had ever posted.
Don't like it.
Yeah, dude. Your brain is being copied by the machine and uploaded in real time. And it's too late. You're on the show. They got you, bro.
There's no going back.
That's honestly why I haven't been involved so long, because you take that and then you take like Neuralink, right? And then you got cyborgs. Like pretty soon, man, like there'll just be robots. Like you just upload me,
So
a robot.
If I go to
hate it.
Grok
Oh,
now
I hate
and
it.
ask who Kevin Posobiec is it going to tell me
We could try it.
the founder of the Gulf of America?
The discoverer.
What I think is going to be pretty crazy is that, not just for me, but obviously for me personally, it makes the subject easy. My kid is going to be able to watch the moment I announced my wife was going to have a kid. And it's like, here's the world before you were born and literally the period of time in which you were being created. It's crazy to think, because the only thing I have of my parents is like, here's a photo album. Here's a photo from this year. Here's a photo from 2 years later. And it's like, how about that? They're literally going to be like, I pulled up my dad's Instagram and I saw his entire life for 15, 20 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't really like the idea. So it's a weird concern. Like go to X right now, or any social media platform, and look up Tim Pool. Like how many Tim Pools are there? I mean, there are 5,000 of them impersonating you.
Oh,
and there are people all the time constantly messaging me. Like I was in Western North Carolina when I was out there delivering Starlinks out there, and they people were asking me like, why did you block me, bro? It's because they message and act like you to people that follow you, and they were trying to solicit money under my name, trying to act like me, trying to talk like me. And now you're talking about the potential for AI emulating the way that you speak, the way that you type. That's going to be a big problem here.
Yep.
You're
Yo,
right.
man.
The fraud has been around for a while.
That's wild.
We've had that in my church. A lot of churches get that, actually. You get emails from priests saying, hey, we need you to donate for so-and-so, for the church, this and that.
Yeah.
But then they have to come out and say, no, like, listen, like priests, first off, they don't even have phones, let alone emails.
You know what's funny is that because people are making comments, the one thing liberals always like to do is accuse conservatives of being short. And I'm like, it's kind of weird because liberals tend to be shorter. I'm actually 7'3". People don't know this. Very tall.
Right.
But it's a weird line of attack that they like to use that I thought I'd bring up for no reason, just because people were chatting.
I've never heard that.
We're political giants.
Well,
like Ben Shapiro's not short.
is he not?
He's not short.
Well,
He's 5'8", 5'9".
yeah, I mean,
So he's average.
when I think of short dudes, I'm thinking like Adam Kinzinger and Dan
tall is he?
Crenshaw, neither of which are the like 5'4", 5'5".
What?
Dan Crenshaw
Really?
is apparently
What?
tiny.
Really?
That's what I heard
What?
the other day.
No.
Like yesterday.
Dan Crenshaw?
I don't know. I know Adam
This is what I'm
Kinzinger
saying.
is tiny.
A line of attack frequently used by by liberals on the left is that people are short, and it's like a weird thing because they tend to be shorter compared to conservatives who tend to be taller. Or I should say, people who are taller tend to skew more conservative.
That's a Noam Chomsky thing.
Yeah.
He did a whole documentary on that.
Calling people short?
No. Is he who tall happy? The whole Noam Chomsky.
Well, have you ever seen a tall old person?
So if you ask Grok,
That's right.
if you ask Grok, it says he's 5'7", but
Crenshaw?
yeah,
Wow. I mean, that's below average. Yeah.
that's definitely below
This
average.
is the thing. Like they constantly try and claim that Ben Shapiro is short, and he's not.
Yep.
Like I got to be
I
honest.
was under the impression that he was just
Exactly.
based on
I've
that.
never met him.
And then the first time I met him, I was like, Oh, he's like normal height. He's like the average guy. It's like average height.
What does that equate to, though? If you're short, then you're dumb?
No, they do it because the left uses a couple of attacks. They call prominent personalities short, and they attack things that they perceive to be talented in. The goal is they want young men not to want to associate with our political ideas because we're not charismatic or like strong men, right?
Okay.
So you'll notice they do this with Andrew Tate. By all means, criticize Andrew Tate. I don't care. But there was this thing Andrew Tate did where he was making fun of leftists, and he tilted his head back and started going, go, go, like making fun of them. They screenshotted it and said, this is what Andrew Tate looks like. And he walked into that one. The intention is to be like, okay, obviously Andrew Tate's insanely ripped. He's a champion kickboxer. You can criticize him for all the things he said. I don't know or care. My point is, the dude has a massive following of young men for a reason, and he makes insane amounts of money off this following. So what they do is they try to attack masculinity. They'll say men are weak, short, or they're not good. One of the things they do to me all the time is, it's the weirdest thing ever. It catches you by surprise. They go on forums and claim, I once saw Tim pull a skate park and he couldn't do a pop shove it. And it's like, it's a really weird thing. I know, right? But the goal is, we have a skateboard company. In fact, it's probably at this point one of the most successful skateboard companies in the world because we sell thousands of skateboards, boonieshq.com.
It's the best skateboard.
The best
company.
skateboards. And you can see the board behind me, the right to arm bears. It's a bear with a shotgun. And we sell a lot.
Yes.
So I have a pro model board. I'm not the best skateboarder in the world or anything, but I'm fairly decent. And I've sold thousands of personal boards. That's more than many pro skateboarders ever have. So if you go to a young kid and you're like, what Tim Pool does, he is successful, he has a show, that is bad for the left. The left needs to be cool. So what they do is they attack the right in ways to try and make it seem like they're short, weak, flabby, incels. That's why they call bench pro an incel. It's like the dude is average height, married with children, and he's multi-millionaire, sleeps on a pile of cash. But this is the attack vector they use.
Right. They did that to Napoleon, too. Wasn't
That's right.
Napoleon actually like...
Normal height.
Yeah.
He had, the reason they say he was short is because he had imperial guards who were like very large men.
I see.
They constantly tell me, they're constantly like, oh, your band's terrible. It's like, man, I mean, I got platinum and gold records. What are you talking about? Like,
It just doesn't work.
Like, your band sucks. No, it objectively doesn't. You know, I mean, but like you said, it's just if they can discredit you somehow, you're like, oh, you know, that you're bad at what you do, and it's like, well,
but that's interesting thing. It's not really discrediting. It's they want when a 16-year-old guy goes onto a forum, they want to make sure every message is, oh, Phil's band is actually not that good. They've never succeeded. What did Hassan called you? The failed musician guy.
Called me a
And
failed
then
musician.
when he found out that Phil's got platinum and gold records, he was like, I meant Ian. And it's like, Ian is not a failed musician guy. Ian is like a mid-level successful actor. And I mean that. People may not realize that. Most people think if you're a successful actor, you're in Hollywood movies. Ian was in a Super Bowl commercial. He did commercial acting and he did plays and stuff like this. And that's normal for an average actor. Ian plays music, but he was never like pursuing being a rock star like in the way that Phil put out an album. Hassan Piker was trying to insult Phil as a failed musician guy, which he's objectively not. But he's doing it without knowing who Phil is because he wants his younger viewers to think that Phil is just like some guy who never made it until they realize that Phil's played stadiums for 90,000 people and has platinum and gold records. And they're like, oh, I meant Ian. Yeah, no, he's just lying because this is the attack vector they use.
Yeah.
I don't really know what's up with these people, too. Like, the left, I experienced this when I confronted Elizabeth Warren there in D.C. after one of the protests. And this leftist chick runs up to me, and she's like, oh, you have a double chin, and you're an incel. And you're like, I'm like, well, I'm going for the triple chin. So, I mean, we're getting there. But, you know, and it's like, this lady's 75 years old and smells like cat piss. It's like, why do you think that's a good attack vector for me?
Why do they always attack masculinity?
Right.
It's
Because
like
they're literally very threatened by it.
Yes.
I think it's because they know that it's valued, that it's deeply valued. The only reason they want to say that you are not manly or masculine, whatever that translates to, is so that young men stay away from you. Because young men are looking for people to look up to, and they want the mentality to be for a young kid, if I act like him, I will be made fun of. And then what ends up happening is these kids grow up and they think, actually, strong guys don't care what people think. I want to be like that guy and be rich and successful.
Right.
Let's grab some more super chats. All right, what do we got? TT. He says, I used to work for the federal government. People don't realize since these people can't be fired, the government promotes problematic, stupid people when they create problems. Then they become your boss. Oh. Yeah.
It's true.
Yep.
Rip.
Jason Dixon says, shout out to the Discord. Shout out to Serge. What he says, Wees my held Serge. Ons het mir Serge in the Discord no dig.
Whoa.
Serge apparently knows what that means. If you want to join a community of over 20,000 people, maybe you're bored at home and you watch the show and you're like, I don't know, I got some free time, I don't know what to do. Go to timcast.com, click join us, get in the Discord server, because we've had people who started podcasts together. Maybe you're a musician and then you go in there and someone else is like, hey, let's write a song together. Boom, now you got songs. Maybe you're like, I'm really good at drawing pictures, but I'm not really funny. And someone else is like, I'm a comedian. Bang, you got a comedy comic together. This networking opportunity is the first step. Next, we're doing these coffee shop franchise with Cast Brew. We want to make it so that all of you who watch at home and watch on this show, wherever you do, you don't just watch and then leave. You watch and then connect with people and build those networking lines, because that stuff builds community and it takes over the world. Let's grab some more. There was a funny super chat. Where was it? I don't know. All right. Korowag says, Phil, what are your thoughts on the saying, making the rounds for a while, people don't get black or red pilled voluntarily? It is done against their will as a suppository.
I mean, it's funny. I do think that generally, like, a lot of times people don't intend to get like red pilled by things. They'll see something and they'll be like, that strikes me as off. That strikes me as wrong. And that kind of puts a crack in the veneer, and then it tends to expand. And that's part of the reason why I think COVID did such a job on the way people kind of interpret what the government does, is because there were so many ridiculous things that the government did that there were too many people that were just like, this doesn't seem right. This seems off. And then they start, questioning things and start digging around to see what they can, what else they feel like they've been wrong about. Another thing that did it was the Very Fine People hoax. You listen to people like, and this is really smart people too, like people like the guys that do the All In podcast, right? Like one of the guys' name is Chamath, and he was fairly anti-Trump, and he was believing everything the liberal media said. And then when he was exposed to the Very Fine People hoax, and he actually watched the video of Trump saying, not the neo-Nazis, not the racists, blah, 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 they should be condemned totally. It was like, I have to rethink everything that I thought prior to this about politics that I thought prior to this moment. So,
all right, we got this one from David Ehrman. He says, show idea for about some sleazy men in Congress, Femcast, Adrienne, Lisa, Libby, Mary, and a guest like Sidney Watson or Shoehead, hosted by Phil to be the mansplainer. I like it. I got a better idea. Those women sit and Phil just explains the news to them.
Hey, that's too manly.
Look, I can't.
If they try to butt in with your wrong,
excuse me.
men are speaking.
I like those women in particular. I don't think would be good candidates.
No, I think if we
Libby's very smart. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
If it was like an actual attempt at a show, they'd be like, I'm not interested. If it was a bit, they'd be laughing their asses off.
We could do that as
It'd be a good bit.
We could definitely do that as a bit.
Yeah.
Anytime they try to correct you, up.
And I have to say ridiculous wrong things too.
About women.
Yeah. Women don't poop. I don't want to hear it.
There's a lot of jokes I can make. I'm not going to. It's family friendly. Maybe on the uncensored portion, 5 minutes. Okay, let's grab some more. Corbyn says the Liberals in Canada just copied the Dems. They kicked 3 contenders for party leadership out of the race to make sure WEF globalist Kami wins. Trump's win has galvanized the Liberals, the commies in Canada. Pray for us. I'm not going to pray for you, because I don't want you to have any advantages, be it from your own merit or from God above, when we come to take your country from you.
We're going to take your country, but we're not going to give you the right to vote.
I'm kidding, but man, do they get really mad when you say that? That's why I love saying it. Like the least
Freeland?
the least threatening country ever. I'm sorry. There are some groups of people where I actually have my security being like, be careful about doing certain things that could rile up extremists. And I'm like, no, we get it. Canada? Ain't nobody scared of you guys.
Well, that's why Trump is continuously trolling Governor Trudeau. I mean, every day he's doing these really official speeches and stuff. You know, like with Macron the other day, and just casually calling him Governor Trudeau in these speeches and all of these.
Yesterday when he was with Macron, that's great.
Yeah, just
that's
on
great.
live TV. You know, he's not.
Well, you had Chrystia Freeland, who's running to be the Liberal Prime Minister. You know, that's what she wants to be. She said that she's running because a 4-year-old girl asked her if she could stop Trump from invading Canada.
Oh, it reminds me of the Kamala thing.
It's funny because the answer is no.
Well, first of all, no, you can't stop it. Second of all, like, we don't really want you.
I don't want Canada. I don't want them to become a state. That's
Hey,
But Canada is
Putin,
being
man.
more.
We don't got they got Putin up there.
Yeah, it's good.
And we will take it from them.
It's way
and they
better
have
in-
depanair.
in-
Come on.
yeah. Well, the
We don't have
debonair
that.
is superior to the bodega.
It is
100 times,
and it will be ours.
Yeah, I would love to have a debonair.
There's someone in
All
Chicago
around.
being like, I don't know those words are.
It's a
Debonair
it's
and
like,
bodega?
You know what it is?
Corner store.
It's a serious corner store. Like,
Yeah.
it's got good cheese, it's got nice wine, good flowers, fresh fruit. Those are the best.
Okay, I'll be honest.
Those are the
Montreal's
best.
fun.
Montreal
I like-
is a
it's
great city.
Yeah.
When
Montreal's
when we
fantastic.
used to have when the Post Millennial used to be based in Montreal, I would go up there sometimes. You know, it's like an excuse to go hang out in Montreal. Be like, oh, I'm coming into the office.
That's the one
Yeah.
thing that I get bummed about with Canada's government is that Montreal is pretty great.
It's great, and I'd be like, oh, look at this! I could just get everything I need at the desk.
and it's pronounced Montreal.
yeah. But see, that's the thing.
Montreal
I don't.
or whatever.
I can't do French.
Montreal, that's what I say.
Cannot do French, but I like the wine and the cheese.
You're saying that this 4-year-old or whatever saying. Well, I mean, at what point is that child abuse? You got your
think it's
4-year-old
Saskatchewan.
thinking that President Trump is going to invade your country.
It's like,
People
you know
teach
the- you know the-
people
you know the
teach their
meme of the guy-
4-year-olds that they're not really the sex they are.
Yeah,
It's
right.
crazy.
You know the meme of the guy shaking the kid, like, Billy, what have you done? The kid says something reasonable, the parent says something unreasonable. It's like, they're going to invade and take our country. Dad, stop.
It's okay. It's not happening.
Also, I got to be honest, like, you get poutine in New York,
Oh,
and
it's
it's not food.
No.
It's just not food. They like take a slice of mozzarella and melt it on top of French fries, and you're like, what is this?
Little gravy. It's not.
No, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And then you go to like the fancy. I don't get it. Why can't people make pizza not in New York, and why can't people make poutine not in Montreal?
There's
it's
no
the
good
water.
answers to anything.
There's no-
Everyone says it's
Everybody
the water.
says it's the water, but I don't know what
I don't
that's.
believe that anyway.
It's like, it's dirty water. It's like, okay, well, you're not making me want your pizza
Yo,
more by
no,
saying
It's not
that.
dirty.
Guys,
That's what I was always told. My dad
made,
grew up
I've
there.
made
He always said,
decent bagels. Like I
I-
had to figure out how to make bagels, and I've made decent ones.
I went to a pizza place in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I am going to disparage Grand Rapids, Michigan right now. It was like bakery bread, which is fine, flat, and maybe like 2 inches thick with tomato sauce and cheese on top. They called pizza. And my buddy said it was like a well-known pizza place. We went there, and I was like, what are you feeding me? Now, first of all, I'm from Chicago, okay? You know what I'm saying? And
Deep dish.
the thing about our pizzas in Chicago is that they're lots of cheese and they're deep. And then in New York, you have real pizza. Yeah, it's a quiche. It's not pizza. New York is the real pizza, and you can get good pizza in Chicago too. But I was deeply offended. I would like to send Dave Portnoy to that place just to have him review that pizza and
Just
get
have him
angry.
destroy it.
you should look up Altoona style pizza. You'll be really outraged. once you
Altoona?
see Altoona
Is
style
that when
pizza.
it's cut into strips?
No. The cheese is American cheese overlaid on top of
No.
the. Yeah, it's real. Look.
What?
Oh, sweet
Yeah, look up
Mary
Altoona
Joseph.
style pizza.
Pulls up
That's what it
Altoona.
looks
He
like.
pulls it up. Yeah.
Is that like American cheese on ketchup on bread?
Yes. That's Altoona style pizza.
I actually like that. That's pretty. You make a grilled cheese, put ketchup on it.
What's wrong with you?
You've never put ketchup on a grilled cheese?
No.
What's wrong?
No, I mean, no. What's wrong with it? It's like we're sitting here arguing about New York versus
you ever
Chicago
put-
style pizza.
Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart?
No.
It's so freaking good.
Yeah, I've put butter on it.
All right, everybody, we're going to go to the uncensored call-in show.
I've put butter
Smash-
on everything.
It's so good. Smash the like. Put butter on steak. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Tell everybody how great the show is. It's the best show. Everyone agrees. At least that's what I've been told. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Join Rumble Premium. That uncensored call-in show is coming up at rumble.com/Timcast IRL right now. Nick, do you want to shout anything out?
Sure. I mean, if you want to follow me, I'm on X at Nick Sortor, NickSortor. I'm not really on any of the platform because they just banned me, like we were talking about with TikTok earlier. I don't even try anymore.
Oh, yeah, you can follow me on X and Instagram, Kevin Posobiec, Kev Posobiec. Check out Human Events Daily. I'm co-hosting there, and yeah, might be seeing more of me in D.C.
Right on.
Condolences.
I'm Libby Emmons. You can find everything we're doing at thepostmillennial.com and humanevents.com. You can find me on X at Libby Emmons. And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, I send it every day. You can do that at thepostmillennial.com/Libby.
I am Phil That Remains on X. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record dropped on January 31st. It's called Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, and Deezer. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all in the Uncensored Call-In Show starting in about 30 seconds. Rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out.